Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's incredible, explosive episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. And of course, I am your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and we have an action-packed show for you this evening. So sit back, crack a brew or a water or a Dr. Pepper, because for me, I don't drink, and sit back and get ready for 2+ hours of the best gaming talk on YouTube on Monday evenings. And we're going to get into the introduction so we can break down these incredible, big, very hot button topics. And we're going to start with our very special guest. Now, this lady is very special to me. She was there when I first broke in onto the gaming scene about podcasting. She kind of helped me out and she set me in the correct direction. And she was very, very helpful trying to learn the YouTube game. She has an incredible, her own incredible podcast known as the Scumcast on the weekends. Please welcome the very opinionated Luca. What's going on, darling? How you been?
Well, I must say that's probably one of the best intros I've gotten in quite some time. Second to Lord Cog, and
only Cognito does them better.
Crazy, crazy how well it is. But thank you so much. Yeah, Boom. I do remember when you got started, and I knew that you would do great things, and you are doing amazing things on your channel. And I'm just every time I see you pop up, I'm like, oh, there he is, just killing it. So yeah, I'm very impressed in what you've been able to accomplish over here, you and your fantastic panel. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. And obviously, one of your co-hosts should be here momentarily. And I guess maybe he's hiding in the wings, waiting to swoop in. We're talking about, of course, Gaming Forte, who you work with on a regular basis. But we'll get to him as soon as he pops in here. Sometimes he gets stuck closing the store, so he might be here a little bit late. But let's get into the rest of the panel. Now, you know him as someone that is not only considered a sniper elite, his love for MMOs is unmatched to anyone. And yes, he will shoot you in the face while saying, how you doing? Please welcome the Tempest Son.
Hey, Boom. I'm glad to be back. Sorry I missed last week, but yeah, I'm here. I'm ready for the topics, and longtime listener of Miss Luca here. So hopefully she disagrees with somebody on the panel and we get into an outright brawl. Let's do it.
Well, listen, you never know with Luca, and you know what? That's the best part about her. You just never know. And Luca tells it like it is, and that's what we love about her. Next up, you know him as someone still searching for a nice slice of pizza, which unfortunately, because he lives in Florida, will never get one until he comes back to NYC. Please welcome the Italian Clowns.
Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah, Boom, no pizza, no calzones, man. Sad to say, but I can get a pet alligator.
Yeah, yes, or you can have your Series X stolen by a baby, which is
yes,
which is still not a good thing. Yeah, I know that you had that people are now rallying around you. So let's not have that happen again, clowns. When you go in on November 10th to, get your Series X. Hopefully, you won't have an incident where you've punched a baby in the face for the Series X.
I will be first in line with a tent, and they might take pictures of me. Maybe I'll get there at 1:00 in the morning and just sleep there. Maybe I won't shower for days to keep the line away.
You gonna pull at me?
Yeah, these are some great plans, man.
That's certainly a way to do it. But thanks so much for being here, Clown. Super appreciate you being here. And next up, our resident Cape Crusader, who's here not only on time, but he took down the Joker, the Penguin, and the Riddler prior to this podcast. Please welcome Cyber Knox.
Just doing my duty. You know how it is, Boom. Glad to be here.
Safe.
Keeping it safe. Glad to be here. I'm on time, like you mentioned. It's amazing being here with Miss Luca. First time podcasting with her and, being on a panel with her. So, I'm honored. And glad to be here on a Monday talking games with you guys. Let's get the show started. Let's go.
Well, it's great to have you a part of the show, and let's bring Luca back in here. She popped out for a second. There she is.
My bad, man. My bad.
No, that's okay. You're perfectly fine. We got you right back in here. And one of the last, but certainly not least, all the way from Northern Canada, if I got it correctly, one of the most opinionated and someone that has been drooling to get into tonight's show to talk about some of those big bombshell opinions from Phil Spencer himself. Please welcome the middle-aged gamer.
Well, good evening, Boom. Good evening, chat. And good evening to this awesome panel. Yes, I missed last week. It was Canadian Thanksgiving, and I got ill, and I lost my voice. And we know what happens when Mag doesn't have a voice. We don't have a show. So I'm back. I'm super excited. What's that, Cyber?
Nothing.
Okay. All right. And you know what? And I'm super excited. For a second there, I saw Ash and Luca was here. I'm like, oh my God, she's here. She's here. She's here. And then all of a sudden she disappeared. I'm like, oh, great. Right before my intro, she takes off. So, but she's back now. Anyways, super excited to be here. Let's get right into it.
I think it's because I didn't sing.
Maybe.
It's definitely that. It's definitely that. And must like middle-aged gamer guy. I love your voice. It's just like that was something that I wanted to compliment you on for a while now. It's just like, damn, he's really got like
he has the Canadian voice.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You can just call me Mag, by the way. It's a lot easier.
Mag?
Yeah, that's it. A lot easier to say.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good to me.
Ooh, I'm so excited.
Perfect voice for this.
Well, listen, folks, we're going to do something a little different. I've been getting a lot of requests. And of course, because this particular show, my channel in general, was built at the forefront of community first. A lot of the ideas that I have moved forward with have been because the community has asked for it. So one of the things we're going to do is, because we don't have any bits and bytes, because the two topics that we're going to get into are massive. But we are going to do something a little different, like I just said, and we're going to talk about what we have been playing. So Luca, because you are our special guest, let's go to you first. What have you been playing recently that's taken up some of your time?
Wow, yeah. So as a lot of people know, I am a big Destiny head. I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2 PvP. It's kind of lacking on content for people who are highly invested in the game. For people who are not that invested in the game, there's a lot of stuff to do. But it's mostly busy work, in my opinion. So I hang out in PvP. I'm not super good at it, but it's a lot of fun. And then when I'm not playing Destiny, I actually started playing some Dark Souls 3 again, which has been
nice.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I did New Game Plus 3 and just went through the beginning area again. I was just like, man, this is easy. So, that's mostly what I've been playing. My two staples, basically.
Well, listen, we know that you're super excited. Hopefully, you're going to be able to get your hands on a PlayStation 5. I have a feeling that Sony is launching just to say that they've launched. I don't think they're going to have a lot of consoles. As a matter of fact, I have a very, very strong suspicion that as we get close to November 12th, many, many people are going to have their pre-orders canceled, because I don't think Sony is ready. I don't think that they're going to be they're in the position to have this console readily available, and that the rumors of a delay were true, but they're just doing a soft launch just to say that they weren't delayed. And I'm, like I said, I have mine at GameStop, and I have my Mrs. Boom got the second one, but that's for the giveaway. That's not just because we're hoarding them, we're looking to sell them on eBay. We're actually giving a PlayStation 5 away for free with Miles Morales, and we have awesome. Those two. Yeah, it's our way of giving back. And my brother actually donated. My brother Neo Mental donated a Series X to give away.
Yeah, Neo is awesome guy.
Yeah, he's been in my corner since we were kids, and he's been pushing me to do this for many, many years. And when you're working as a New York City police officer, you kind of got to keep your eye on the prize, and that's staying alive.
Yeah,
there really was no time for this, but now that I'm retired, I can dedicate myself to this. I said job. Oh my God, because it is like a job.
It is kind of like a job, yeah.
But Luca, thank you so much for the information. For me personally, I'll jump in front of everybody. One game has grabbed my attention, and it's one that I was very, very fortunate enough to be given by the developer, and that's Raji, an ancient epic, which is a very, very reminiscent of course, Prince of Persia, but it also has it has so many different grabs from different genres, because there is a point where the camera pulls all the way back, and you are fighting monster bosses that are 50 times bigger than you. It's kind of like a little bit of Shadow of the Colossus. You're just not climbing up on them. It's a pretty interesting title that a lot of people don't know about. I'm doing a full-on review tomorrow on the special edition episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. So tune in tomorrow at noon for that. But yes, I got it on Friday, beat it today, and it was about 8 hours. And it's just a fantastic game. Very, very heavy on story that involves family. And it's certainly worth your time. But Mag, you've been down and out. Unfortunately, you didn't have a voice to talk, but you still had fingers to play a game. What have you been up to?
Well, I very sadly finished Mafia Definitive Edition.
I'm on the end of that too.
I did not want it to end. I mean, it was just so good, and I mean, being Italian myself, it just hit home. And I'm such a huge, monstrous Mafia movie fan, and I didn't want that game to end. It's so good. And anyways, I finished that, loved it. Now I just got. You can clap anytime you want. Now I finally got my platinum on Spider-Man.
Nice, good for you.
Super happy about that. Because I don't want to start any nonsense, okay? But I just didn't want to carry it off the PS5. I just don't know exactly what's happening. I want to clean out that PS4, get rid of all that backlog, and I only got one platinum left, and it's God of War Platinum. So I'm going to go back and get that platinum before I get that PS5. Nice. Also, I got the Oculus Quest 2, and I sold the other one, and I got this one, and it's fantastic. I gave a little sort of mini review on Noof's show when I did Gaming After Dark last Tuesday. And it's fantastic, man. It's like half the size, half the weight. It's almost double the processing power. It's fantastic. So it's and Noof actually got one himself based on what I was telling him, and he loves it too. So I've been fiddling around with that right now, and I'm looking forward to Medal of Honor VR. Yes. And tomorrow I will be starting what's it called? Walking Dead Saints and Sinners in VR. So nice. I'm really looking forward to that too. I got some great reviews. So that's what I've been up to. So.
Very, very nice. Well, Clowns, let's go to you, brother. What you been up to? What have you been playing?
Lately I've been hooked on this game called Undermine. I believe it's in Game Pass, but I did receive a press copy of it, and I got to say, it's like I put in over 18 hours so far, and I'm addicted to it. Because no matter how many times you die, you keep coming back to life as a new person, but you keep all your XP gained, you keep like any utilities that you buy, so you can keep upgrading your character, die, come back to life, upgrade them again. It's just fun. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Nice, dude. Nice. Well, nothing like getting a press copy to review and enjoying the game. That's a double bonus. Tempest Sun, I know that it's going to be MMO related because that's how you roll, but what have you been playing?
Actually, I've been playing, it's like MMO led, I guess. I've been playing some of Genshin Impact still. The wife and I are still playing that.
Nice.
But the big thing we've been playing is Age of Empires 3 Definitive.
Nice.
Oh my god, it's so much fun. As a matter of fact, last night I did something I didn't even know you could really do in the game. I was getting my butt freaking handed to me by Indians, like an Indian tribe, and who was it? The Spanish. They're kicking my butt, and I was the English. I was British. And I'm like, what the heck are we going to do? I was about to rage quit because I was just getting my butt kicked so bad. I hit this revolt button. Didn't even know I could do it. And it allowed me to become the Americans. So all of a sudden, all my villagers and stuff, they all turn into like militiamen. And I get to build cowboys. And I swear to God, they sound exactly like Arthur Morgan. So I had like 50 Arthur Morgans out there riding their horses, 2 guns, pow, 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 pow. I came back and won the round. I was like, oh my God. I was so hyped about it. But that game's been a blast. And once again, I love you, Game Pass. Thank you. It just came out, and now I'm addicted to it, and just Game Pass. That's all I can say.
Yeah, Game Pass for the win. Hashtag for sure. And last but certainly not least, Cyber. What's been taking up Batman's time?
Oh man, did you guys ever play that game, Taking Care of Your Baby? I love it. It's so good.
I platinumed that.
I'm working towards the platinum too, Mag. Don't worry. Yeah, man. I've been consistently playing The Witcher 3 again. Game of the Year edition. I won a 1,000 that game. I wish I've consistently said it. Xbox needs a platinum. Okay, like a word for the 1,000. They need like
I agree. You know what? That's a fantastic.
I think me and Mag talked about it one time too.
Mm-hmm.
They need something. They need something to combat that on the PS side. But anyways, yeah. So The Witcher 3. I'm replaying that again. I can't get out of Warzone, man. I'm still there. Like me and a handful of like my closest friends, we continually play that like all the time. So between those two games, that's pretty much all the time I have, but yeah, I'm excited. I love the Witcher game. I was gonna hold off to the Series X came out because I know they're gonna do an upgrade for the Series X. So I'm sure it's gonna be
Dang,
higher
brother. Yeah,
graphical
you should have waited,
fidelity.
man. You should have
uh
waited.
I wanted to wait, but they said like, oh, we don't know when it's gonna come out. I'm still early on. That game will last you for hours, so
Yeah, that's true. I've
it's
played
gonna.
it 3 times myself, so
Oh yeah, it's
yeah, it's
amazing. It's an
amazing.
amazing game.
Yeah.
So I was gonna wait because I'm sure because they do have a performance mode and in a graphics mode, a resolution mode right now. But I wanted to wait and get the best of both worlds on the Series X. But I wanted to get through it. It's a little bit older game, and with all these other games coming out, it's gonna take most of my time as well. So for me, that's it, man. Those two games.
All right. Listen, everyone's been playing something that they like, and that is really what it's all about, is enjoying gaming, because it certainly pulls you out of the world, which is not doing so well right now. And you know what? We all need a little fun, hashtag fun and joy in our lives for sure. But I want to move on to one of the bigger and massive topics for this evening. But before I do, let me thank DJ Birdo DOS for the outstanding $2 super chat and says, boom, this panel is fire tonight. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you enjoy it, and I'm glad that you're here. And of course, thank you for your generosity. But look, I'll say this. Since getting into the podcasting / content creation world, there have been several occurrences that have rocked both the gaming and social media communities. One such moment happened just recently on September 21st, 2020. And obviously, we know what we're talking about. That was the Microsoft acquired ZeniMax / Bethesda Studio Games for $7.5 billion. Now, this, my friends, will, and potentially always be the biggest thing to happen in modern day gaming history. Now, days after this monster acquisition, both the supposed unbiased gaming media, as well, of course, as the gaming community, were left with more questions than answers. In fact, many were calling foul, saying that Microsoft had cornered the market, even suggesting it was unfair that titles like Doom, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and that's just to name a few, were going to be only on Xbox and, of course, PC. And that Microsoft needed these titles to be multi-plat games because, of course, they managed Microsoft's money and said that they had to make their money back, their investment back. Well, there's been a lot of talk in the gaming community, and one of the words that the kids use is the same energy. And it seems as if, and I know we're going to get into this, and I know people are going to have big opinions about this. When Sony does something dubious, like, let's say, I don't know, locking the face of Marvel behind a piece of plastic called the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, it's cheered, right? Its fan base runs out there and cheers them and says, Sony is doing this for their players. They care about us. And it seems like Microsoft, when they do things like this for their millions of players, even though they're not as many as, of course, the PlayStation 4 fan base, they're either jeered or booed, right, by the community, saying that Microsoft should not be doing this and it's not right. So obviously, the very simple term is PlayStation good, Microsoft bad, right? That's how it seems to go on a regular basis. Now, there has been a lot of talk, more specifically from Phil Spencer, regarding what Microsoft is going to do with the unbelievable amount of IPs that they purchased for that $7.5 billion. And Stephen Totilo, editor-in-chief of Kotaku, sat down with Phil Spencer this past Friday, and he asked him a lot of questions, though it's what we're going to talk about this evening that really does put the final nail in the coffin for anyone that is considering seeing or potentially hoping that they're going to see any of these Bethesda games coming to the PlayStation 5. Let's get into exactly what Phil Spencer exactly had to say. And it's how he said it that really does make a big difference here. So see, this is what Stephen Totillo asks Phil Spencer. He says this: is it possible for Microsoft to recoup the $7.5 billion investment if you don't sell Elder Scrolls 6 on the PlayStation 5? Phil Spencer immediately answered that. And like I said, I can't say it the way he said it in context. You'd have to read the article, which, by the way, I have in the show notes if you missed it. And he immediately said, yes. And he pauses, and then this is what he had to say. And this is where the nail in the final coffin comes. He says, I don't want to be flip about that. This deal was not done to take games away from another player base like that. Nowhere in the documentation that we put together was, how do we keep other players from playing these games? We want more players to be able to play these games, not fewer people to be able to play these games. But I'll also say in the model, I'm just answering directly the question that you had. When I think about where people are going to be playing and the number of devices that we had, and we have xCloud, we have PC, we have Xbox Game Pass, and our console base. I don't have to ship those games on any other platform that we support. So I'm going to read that again. Just understand what he just said there. This is it, folks. I don't have to ship those games on any other platforms. That is it, folks. Now, listen, I know there's people trying to spin this. Well, he didn't actually say that Fallout 5 is only going to be on Xbox, folks. If you're a PlayStation person and that's your only line of communication when it comes to gaming, then my best advice to you is you're going to have to start thinking outside the box. And there's two ways I'm going to approach this. The same group of people that said they don't need an Xbox because they can play on PC, well, there is your answer. You can go and play any of these games on PC when they come out. And if you were lying about that and you don't have a PC that could even load up a McDonald's commercial, that's fine too. We have an Xbox for you. It's called the Xbox Series S, and it's $300. And if you don't want to spend $300 and you kind of really want the best console that's available on the market, that's not the PlayStation 5, that's called the Xbox Series X. And you know what? If you can't afford the $500, and quite frankly, a lot of people can't, Microsoft is going to make it even easy for you, because for $25 a month, you can get the S. And for $35, you can get the X. So there is your problem solved. Now, like I said, there's going to be big opinions here. There's already 400 plus people here in the chat, which is amazing. And I'm hoping that we can get some more people in on the conversation. But of course, Luca, I want to go to you first here, because obviously this is a big, big topic. And it's one that has been raging since the announcement that Microsoft purchased Bethesda. And obviously, one of the two of the games I expect to stay on PlayStation are probably going to be Fallout 76, because it's an MMO, as well, of course, as Elder Scrolls Online, because Microsoft isn't going to pull those games or content, because quite frankly, they are making money. But I don't see Elder Scrolls 6. I don't see Fallout 5. I don't see Doom, Eternal, whatever. And I certainly don't see any of their other big games. What are your thoughts on what Phil Spencer said during this article, this sit-down interview with Kotaku?
Well, my thoughts are, for quite some time now, I've believed that these titles would remain, I don't want to say exclusive because they're on multiple platforms, but it's not going to be on the PlayStation 5. That's just my opinion. Like, it's not going to be on the PlayStation 5 unless Game Pass happens to show up on the PlayStation 5, if you know what I mean. And
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So I don't think they're going to show up, at least the bigger titles. Now, the reason that I believe this is because if it was solely about Game Pass and bolstering Game Pass, which, don't get me wrong, I definitely think it's for this as well, then they could have just done a deal. They could have did a deal like they did with Bungie, in which all of Bungie's Destiny 2 content is in Game Pass now.
Yep.
But they don't own Bungie. They don't own Bungie. They didn't fork up the money for Bungie. But they did for ZeniMax Studios and all of those everything. You know, I was actually one of the people who was extremely excited about this news, because I am a huge huge fan of Bethesda. I mean, they've had some setbacks that I've been very vocal about, but regardless of that, I love Fallout. I love Elder Scrolls. I am a huge, huge Wolfenstein fan. So I was like, okay, this is great for me. Now, because they spent this amount of money on them, I truly believe that they're going to keep it within the Xbox, PC, mobile ecosystem. And something I really liked, right? Phil made it extremely clear. He was like, listen, man, listen. I am only answering the question that you asked me, because Phil knows at this point that he has to clarify exactly what he means, because if he doesn't, people are going to take his words, they're going to twist it, and they're going to turn it into something else, because that's just what they do. The media does it, which, okay, the media does it, and then people in the community do it. People in the community, they don't really matter all that much in regards to the troll community, I guess you can say, but he's very careful about what he's very careful about how he words things, right? Now, in that regard, he said, okay, so no, we don't need to put these games on any other platform than the ones that we already have.
Yep.
And I think that's a really good answer. But I do want to also say he said we don't need to, but him saying we don't need to doesn't mean they're not going to. Now, while I believe they're not going to, anything is possible in the future. And he did state that it was by a case-by-case basis, but I was thinking more of like the smaller titles, So we'll have to see. But definitely for Elder Scrolls and Fallout, I don't believe they are going to show up on PlayStation 5. So
one of the things that they talked about right after the deal was the reason why they wanted to make this investment. And Phil Spencer said this on the Xbox Wire article, literally explaining that they wanted to prove to their Xbox community that they were here not only for the long haul, but that we mattered, that the community mattered, and that he has heard the cries for Xbox has no games, and they don't have strong first party games. And in one fell swoop, when you consider that something like Doom Eternal is going to go up against some of the biggest titles in 2020 as in the running for Game of the Year, completely shatters any talk of Xbox does not have any AAA bangers. And if you think about Elder Scrolls 6, if you think about the next Doom, you think about the next Fallout, if you think about all of the other titles that they have on top of all of their first party stuff that's in development, they have the potential to drop 6 AAA bangers per year for at least the next 5 or 6 years with the 35 plus teams that they have working on games. This is very exciting. But what's more exciting, Luca, is that all of these games will be in Game Pass day and date, and that is pretty epic when you think about it. I want to go to Cyber first because I was going to call on Mag, but then of course poor Cyber would feel like, oh no, Mag has beaten me down again. So
he's got to follow me up now. Boom, he's got to follow me.
He's got to follow you. So let's
real quick before you get to him. I do want to say real quick,
sure,
that I think that you made a great point, really emphasizing the Game Pass point, because as we've seen with Sony and we've seen with Activision and 2K, the price of games have gone up to $70. So this is going to be a great get for people who are fans of those franchises. And that's all I had to say. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. And that's a great point, because I went the other day to finish paying off my the 4 games I have for the PlayStation 5, and it was over $300 after tax. That hurts, man. 4 games, $300. For $100 more, I can get a digital edition of PS5. And for the same amount of money, I can walk away with a Series S. So that extra $10, or it's actually a little closer to $12 with tax, it hurts. That's almost $48 more you're spending on games that if we look last year at this time, they were $65, $65.01 to be exact. So yeah, Game Pass is going to definitely, show its worth for sure. And that's why I think it's going to be a service that explodes, especially for next gen. But, Cyber, before I get to you, let me just catch up with some of these super chats. First of all, we have a new channel member, Chap City. Thank you so much, dude. Super appreciate that. Welcome to the Boomstick family. We have Kay Asante, a very generous friend of the show. He drops An outstanding $5 super chat and says, salute to the panel. Luca, big fan of your videos. Boom, post pictures when the Halo mug comes. I certainly will. Working late today.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, K. Asante. He's working late, but he's going to catch the show video on demand. So thanks so much for being here, as always. We also have a Bounty Boom, a very generous friend of the show. He drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, Wagana Boom and panel. Well, Wagana to you, my brother. Thank you so much for being here. Definitely appreciate the generosity, but of course, more importantly, I appreciate you're here supporting the channel with your view. We have Makaya 28 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, new Xbox slogan, Xbox has no games. Nah, Xbox has your games. I love it. That's great. That's great. Listen, folks, as we close, past 500 people already here, I want to just insist and potentially even beg that you hit that like button, folks, because it is working. The likes seem to have gotten this particular show, as well as some of the other ones, in a certain algorithm with YouTube that I am seeing numbers I've never seen before. Each show that I'm doing, especially for Xbox, the Xbox Factor, I'm hitting 10,000 plus views every show, which is ridiculous considering I don't even have 7,000.
Fire King.
Yeah,
Fire.
thank you. So that's so it's definitely helping. But Cybernox, what are your thoughts on Phil Spencer's commentary here? I mean, like, he seemed very candid. I mean, like I said, if you read the article, that snap to yes was immediately after Tortillo asked that question, and then he followed suit with the big statement. And I think that kind of just draws a line in the sand that says, if you want to play on Xbox, there is a multitude of ways to play, but it's not going to be on PlayStation.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you can tell by Phil's demeanor. I know Tex is I read the article, and it's very subjective, right? The way you word things and the way it sounds. But you can tell that he's getting to like a point that even I believe he even feels that the media kind of wants this console war nonsense to keep going on and on, because it generates clicks, right? So they try to corner him, and he's like, look, man, I'm answering this just because you asked, you know what I mean? And yeah, man, it's kind of like what you said, Game Pass and what the Xbox ecosystem, this ecosystem that Phil Spencer has created, allows a ton of people to experience any games that they want. Now, I am with Luca here. I think that if it I agree with her in one way. If this was just going to be a Game Pass deal, right? They could have gone with Bethesda and been like, hey, they could have done something like they did with EA Play, where everything from EA Play is coming to Game Pass, something like that. But with Bethesda, no. That's always has been the narrative that Xbox doesn't have any games, they don't have any exclusives, they don't have X, Y, and Z. So what do? They make a huge move. They've been working on this for a while. Even if you listen to that Major Nelson interview that he did with all the guys, it's been in the works for a long time. They've been in partnership for a long time, and they felt that the direction that Xbox was going on, it felt right. It felt like that's the way that they were going to reach the most amount of gamers. And kind of like what you mentioned as well, Boom. Like, when one console does something, it gets praised, and when the other side does it, it gets hate. And I don't understand that. If it's competition that we all want, which breeds excellence, then there it is. There's competition. I know they just bought, a studio, and all these, it's a little bit, could be considered a little bit different, but it shows you the commitment that both of these companies have to giving you an excellent product. At this point, I think Phil is just, he's ready for all these different narratives, because he in every interview he has to select his words so carefully, because he knows any little bit that he gives other people, and like anything that he says that's missed out of place or people can use it out of context, is going to get used against Xbox for some way or another. But I think in this case, he's making it abundantly clear that, hey, listen, we bought the studio. We bought the studio to bring games to the Xbox ecosystem. If people want to play these games that are gonna come out from Bethesda, from everyone else, we're giving you a multitude of ways to play it. You can buy an Xbox, you can play it on PC, you can play it on a mobile device and an Android device, for $15 a month. You already have a device that can play those games. So we're giving you choices, and those choices are up to you, and yeah, man, it's gonna be fairly interesting to see how everything plays out, But yeah, I'm pretty positive that all next gen games are coming exclusively to Xbox. Now, when it's a cross gen title, it could potentially still go to the PS5 or PS4 at the time, but if it's also a games as a service, I can see it potentially going everywhere else as well. But exclusive games, I think are going to be next gen titles only. Are probably only going to come to the Xbox ecosystem.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense to. I mean, look. Here's the thing. For Microsoft, they say, and I think we can all agree. And Phil has said this. We've heard this from Matt Booty. We've heard this from Aaron Greenberg. Selling consoles isn't paramount for Microsoft. That's a different story for Sony. Sony is staying traditional. They want to sell you the software. They want you to buy it digitally so they get the extra money when you buy it because you're buying it directly. I mean, there's a reason why you cannot buy anything digital outside of Sony's store, because they want to maximize profit. And they're doing that by counting how many games they sold versus how many consoles they sold. So console sales for Sony is important. Console sales for Microsoft is a piece of the very, very ginormous puzzle. But right now, again, having to reiterate this, it's not just Xbox, the Series X and S where you can play, because obviously with xCloud coming to the consoles, you're going to be able to play these games. You're going to be able to use xCloud off of your current Xbox One X.
You can play it on the fridge.
Yeah, Xbox One S, right? You also can take that mobily. You want to play on your tablet, you can. You want to play it on your phone, you can. If you want to play it on PC, guess what? You can do that. This is the difference. Microsoft is looking towards the future, and the future is now. It's not 2 years from now. It's not 5 years from now. It is happening right now, and Microsoft has been ahead of the curve. Now, Mag, you, my friend, I want to go to next, because even in the DMs, as loud as you are on this podcast, and we love you for it, the amount of loudness that was in the DMs, I knew you couldn't wait to tackle this. Now, Papa Phil has been out there making the rounds. The Series X has been in the hands of how many people? Thousands, potentially, talking about this. Now they've cut the line, and everyone can say whatever they want about it except for a review, right? Everyone's previewing it. But when you look at what Phil had to say during this interview, and again, this interview came out of completely nowhere, and I think that if there's anything that throws an exclamation point into the conversation, it's what he just said. I don't have to ship those games on any other platform that we support outside of what we are currently doing. That clearly says that he doesn't need the PlayStation 5. Now, some people don't want to hear that, but that's what he said in so many words. For you, I'm interested to know, what does this mean for PlayStation gamers potentially hoping and praying that some of these big AAA bombs that were multi-plat are ever going to come to their console?
No, I'll tell you right now, that's a no. For me, it's not going to happen. Now, I'm going to dive deep on this because I have a couple of philosophies and thoughts.
By all
about
means,
why.
dive as deep as you want.
All right, thank you. My personal feelings on this matter, seriously, is that Phil and team should absolutely keep these games to the Xbox and PC ecosystem. Now, hear me out. Strictly from a business point of view, when you invest and cultivate a product, whatever product it is, doesn't matter what it is, okay? And in this case, it's gaming. What is your ultimate goal? Your ultimate goal is to maximize profit and return on investment. How do you grow that consumer base? You bring the people to you. Okay, that's how you build that base. You grow that base, and your ecosystem will then flourish. This is not rocket science. This is how it's done. This is how business is done. First of all, they've done the groundwork, and they've been working on this groundwork for years. Okay, they've done the groundwork. They're offering the best hardware, to play your games. I'm excluding PC here, okay? I just, let's not get into that. They've offered the best hardware to play your games on the console market. They offer the best online experience. They offer the best cloud gaming experience in xCloud. They offer the best services on the market with Game Pass, all access as well, to allow gamers from literally every walk of life to, an opportunity to experience top tier gaming. So what do they have left? If you knock all those things off the list, what do they got left? Offering the best games on the market. Now, not at the moment, however, but Sony is still currently got it by the short and curlies. I mean, let's face it here.
There's no doubt about it.
I mean, look at this year. Okay, when it comes to exclusive content, look at this year alone. Xbox had a great year with good marketing, excellent messaging, by the way, very clear and concise, a lot of transparency, Game Pass, profit, very good year. But you were going up against Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima. You got to bend the knee to the quality of those titles.
Absolutely.
I mean, Ghost of Tsushima is still my game of the year. And I just platinum Spider-Man because I'm not taking it to PS5 because of reasons. Okay, we don't know. I don't know what's going to go on. Anyways, back on topic here. When those ZeniMax titles start to hit on Xbox and PC, plus you've got Initiative and Ninja Theory, and I'm telling you right now, by the way, chat, panel, everybody, do not sleep on Compulsion Games. I got this gut feeling that they're going to surprise the hell out of us.
I can't say much, but what I can say, what was told to me, is that it's going to surprise.
Okay, there it is.
So many people.
Okay, so nobody sleep on Compulsion Games. Now, when those studios start cranking out content, well, now you literally got every base covered. There will be zero reasons to not invest in the Xbox ecosystem. Now, that being said, why would they put their games elsewhere? Now that I've said all that, why would you put your games elsewhere? You don't have to. When Disney bought up half of Hollywood for their, for that wildly successful Disney Plus, what are they at? 60, 65 million now?
Yeah.
Okay. Was everyone crying, saying, how are they going to make their money back if they don't share their content? Don't worry about Disney. They got it all worked out. I mean, you think Phil and Satya on the board went on a drunken bender one night and they were like, hey guys, let's just buy ZeniMax and see how mad we can make the investors. They got us. This is carefully calculated. Okay. These aren't knee-jerk reactions. These are carefully calculated moves by people making a lot of money to execute those moves and produce results. So don't worry about that. And actually, I think Phil alluded to that. He wasn't worried about it. And you see the confidence, Phil, not confidence, how confident he was in that interview. He knows what's up. And I'm starting to think that a lot of those vocal naysayers, by the way, some media included, they're taken aback by a very confident squad at Xbox led by confident leadership. And they're not used to that. And I think that, when you've got Phil up there, stone cold face, okay, but very calm, very cool, very calculated. He knows exactly what's going on. He's very confident in his product. A lot of people are not expecting that. My confidence personally is based on Phil's messaging and following through on his agenda. Boom. You remember, what was it, E3? What was it, 3-4 years ago when he had the big speech when he said that he had a plan and a promise for the Xbox fans? You remember that?
I did, yeah. That's 2017.
Okay. Was that 2017?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, this is it. This is it. This is what he was talking about, Boom. Okay, it's coming to fruition right before our eyes. So why even bother spreading around the wealth? Sony is going to do just fine on their own. Same with Nintendo, and I'm not going to go off on a whole rant about Sony and the hypocrisy, by the way, of some of that toxic fan base. I'm not talking about Sony fans. I'm talking about a toxic fan base, okay, as previously mentioned. I mean, if this was Sony locking everything up, there'd be parades in the streets, with ticker tape flying down from the buildings in Manhattan. Okay, the criticism of such moves would be minute at best if it was any other company. I have, however, noticed a small trend happening, by the way. I don't know if you guys noticed this too, but a lot of toxic trolls have been slowly disappearing. Mm-hmm. And I've been seeing it back off actually quite a bit, which is wonderful because, this is supposed to be fun at the end of the day, okay?
Oh, yeah.
This is not anger-fueled and emotional. This is supposed to be fun. And, oh, by the way, to cap off my thoughts on all this, by the way, another thing that just came to my head. When Uncharted 4 came out, what did I do? I bought a PS4.
You went out and bought it.
I bought a PS4. I didn't have a PS4 yet. I just had the Xbox One. I bought the PS4 to play it. Now, I understand if anybody's going to, challenge me on this and say, well, those other games are multiplats. I understand those games used to be multiplat, but now they're not. Okay? I mean, presumably. And if you don't agree with it, Frank Sinatra sings it, baby. That's life. Okay.
Oh, there it is.
There it
No,
is. Yeah.
That's life, baby. That's business. And at the end of the day, they aren't cornering you financially and crushing you unfairly to access these products. You know, just like Phil said, you have multiple options from all levels of affordability to enjoy their products. So whatever they end up doing, I 100% support whatever decisions they're going to make going forward. That's how I feel about it.
Well, I mean, again,
Boom, do you mind if I piggyback on one
absolutely,
thing?
absolutely,
Mike just
brother.
said.
Fine.
Also,
Mhm.
Game Pass is going to get to a point. Game Pass is at a 15 million subscribers right now, respectively, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to hit to a point, whether that number be 30, 40, 50 million, concurrent subscribers. That's going to, the reoccurring revenue that they're going to get from that thing every month. This is a long-term plan. This is not something that they need to recoup right away. They understand their finances. They know their books better than anybody else. They have a lot smarter people than a lot of people here working all these details out. But once they hit that number, it won't matter how much money they spent, how much money they invest, because they're going to be making so much money a month that it'll balance itself out. It's crazy.
Well, real quick,
and they're increasing at a crazy rate too, from
They
10
are.
million to 15 million, just like that in a span of a couple of months.
Wait till
They're
those
going to
big
get there a
games
lot
hit.
quicker. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I got news for you guys. King from the Iron Lords podcast, him and I, we talk on a daily basis. Same thing with Cog. We're brothers outside of podcasting. Like, we're family. So we talk on almost a regular basis. And King and I, we don't have the biggest connections. Him certainly a lot more than me. But we do have it on good authority that they're closer to 20. They just haven't announced it yet.
Oh yeah.
So folks, understand that for a second, and I just want you to understand why it baffles me as a consumer. It baffles me as a podcaster and a content creator why Sony just refuses to make a move to basically just cut and paste and copy. Jim Ryan is very, very stubborn way he does business, folks. Look, let's call a spade a spade. PS Now, which is their digital service, right, has been around since 2013, right? Or 2014, I believe it was. And currently, now listen, I'm not a rocket scientist by any stretch of the truth, but I understand that if it's 2014 when it came out and it's now 2020, that's 6 years, right? So 6 years, 2.2 million subscribers. Xbox Game Pass released in, I believe it was maybe 2018. It's only about 2 years old, if I'm not mistaken, and they're almost at 20 million. The way that Sony is doing it is not right. It is obviously the dollars are not making sense, and I don't know when they're going to do this move. I'm hoping that they do it sooner, because then that's something I would invest in. PS Now, I wouldn't buy for $1, because what they're offering is not what Microsoft is offering, which is why I only have my PlayStation Plus yearly subscription that I pay for. But I want to go to Tempest Sun. But Tempest, before I get to you, brother, let me just catch up with some of these outstanding super chats. We have the Trigger Man with an outstanding $2 super chat, and he says this: if Phil needs PlayStation, he will change his mind. And the Ashen Luca, who is on the panel, drops a very generous $5 super chat, and in all caps, and I would expect nothing less from the darling known as the Ashen Luca. She says, let's hit the like button for the amazing host, panel, and chat. Well, thank you so much for that. Super, super appreciate that. Bounty Boom shows his generosity once again with a very generous $10 super chat and says, Luca, enough respect and enjoy all of your new content you've been doing lately. And Forte, what's up, brother? And the rest of the panel, what's up? He says, and I watch all of your YouTube channels. Keep up the good work. We'll do. Thank you so much for the ridiculous support. We definitely appreciate you. We have Makia28 drops a very generous $5 super chat. In fact, additional $5 super chat, and says, they say that the Series X plays old games. People pay $1,500 for an RTX 3090 to do what? Play old games. And that's a great point. Keo Walker If I mispronounced your name, and I probably did, I apologize, Mr. Walker. He drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, the new Xbox app released today and will also allow you to stream from your console when not at home without xCloud. Oh, that's kind of dope. I didn't even know that. I know that I got an update.
Oh,
but,
yeah, this update today.
Yeah, so that's definitely dope. But Tempest Son, you have been chomping at the bit to jump into this conversation. You know, Microsoft made this big move, and Phil came right out during that interview, not that particular one, but the one he did on Xbox Wire, and he wanted to prove to Xbox gamers that we mattered. And this is the way that you do that. You invest in your platform for your players. Now, granted, it's 50% less than what Sony has, but potentially maybe doubling in the next generation due to obviously a cheaper Series S at 300. If you want the maximum power at 5, you can do that. And if you can't afford to pay the money, again, Microsoft has really doubled down on allowing everyone from every walk of life, whether you are making six figures or only making a couple of $100 a week where your job, you can afford to play on Xbox through Xbox All Access. Those kind of investments, along with, of course, the Bethesda $7.5 billion investment, tells me that they have a plan, and it's for Xbox gamers. It's to get people into their ecosystem and, of course, get people to subscribe to Game Pass. What are your thoughts on what Phil had to say in this interview?
The quote-unquote reading between the lines for me was this was the nicest way possible he could say PlayStation isn't getting it. For the most part, Nintendo's not getting it, unless there was a part in the interview that he almost alluded to the fact that, well, he didn't allude to this, but what I got from it was if they actually put Game Pass and seemingly, I guess, xCloud, but for console on the Switch and the PlayStation, that's never going to happen just because of Sony and Nintendo. So I don't think it's ever going to happen, but I think that would be the only way these games hit there. And I don't like certain kinds of exclusivity. Swear to God, when Tomb Raider hit, I'm an Xbox first player, so I love the game. And I was at least happy that if there was exclusivity, it was on Xbox. I love Tomb Raider. But I'm not going to lie to you. I felt bad. While I was playing, I felt a little bad. I felt less bad knowing that I think Microsoft actually helped fund the game, which is different. But I felt a little bad, you know. But see, they don't own Crystal Dynamics. Xbox doesn't. Xbox just paid $7.5 billion for Bethesda. They are paying the bills. They are writing the checks.
Yeah.
For over, I think, 2,300 employees. So everything that happens in the ZeniMax, tree, if you are, or branch of studios, they're now paying for. They're fully funding it. It is their games. And bottom line is they don't want 20 million subscribers for Game Pass. They want 50, 60, 70, 80 million. That's what they want. And it is absolutely a possibility that they get it. And if they are buying a bunch of studios, even if it's like, your studio you love, it's easier to play their games than, say, PlayStation's, because you just have to buy the box. You got to buy the $400 or the $500 box. They make it very easy to play their stuff. You can literally pay it by just paying for Game Pass Ultimate and picking up your Android device. It's literally all it takes. So they make it very easy to play their stuff. So I think Phil was spot on when he said we want more people to be able to play. And I really don't think they're looking at this as let's screw over Sony. Let's screw over somebody else from not getting a product would be what Sony did with Final Fantasy 16. It just is what it is. I mean, that game's being made anyways, and it's eventually going to hit the Xbox. But they paid for that product that's already being made to be locked into their ecosystem for a certain period of time. Yeah, it's business. I get it. But Xbox is paying the bills now. It's their stuff. You know what I mean? And they just want them astronomically huge Game Pass numbers. And I tell you what, I see comments and stuff on Twitter, and I'll see stuff like, well, I guess I'm done with Bethesda games. Listen, part of the fun of all of these games, but especially something like a Bethesda game, even back in 2011, when memes were not just getting their start, they've been around for a little while, but dude, my wife and I would just sit there and laugh every night at the constant stream of memes, clips, funny videos of stuff happening in Skyrim. Skyrim was everywhere, just like a lot of other games blow up now. Let me tell you something. If you're a Bethesda fan and Elder Scrolls 6 comes out and you start seeing these videos, memes, all this stuff, and it's just everywhere, you're not going to be able to resist. So I truly think there is no way this stuff is going to PlayStation or Nintendo even. Because what are you going to do? You're going to get Game Pass if you're on a console, they're very clever, Microsoft. They see it. PC players are the most stubborn bunch of them all. They will look at a game that comes out and launches on Game Pass on PC, see the price tag of $10 and or $15, and they will just go over on Steam and buy it on Steam. You know?
Yeah.
And they're releasing there as well. So I don't know. It's easy to play their games. And if anybody were to buy all these companies, not just because I'm an Xbox gamer, but listen, logically speaking, would you want the company that's going to lock it down to one device or the company that's going to give you all these options on how to play it? Not just options, but very, very cheap options.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to me. This acquisition was... I mean, look at my temporary icon there. That's like they're stepbrothers now, man. Doomslayer and Master Chief. I love it. Like, I just can't believe that they're buddies now. You know, they're just owned by the
You
same
do
company.
realize that it's only a matter of time, if it's not going to happen already, that the Master Chief armor is going to be selectable in Doom. I mean, everyone is going to lose their shit when that happens.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be collectibles. Like when you play Doom, you know how you collected the little.
You get a little Master Chief
guy.
one of the
Yeah,
vents.
I think it's gonna be Master Chief guys, something like that.
Yeah. But no, all around, it's good stuff. And you know, I don't know what to say. Like if I'll just say it again. I know I'm repeating myself, but if you are a PlayStation only player, I get it. You love that ecosystem. But Microsoft really is making it easy for you to play their games. They really are. So just give up. Just do it. I mean, I know a ton of Xbox First fans that own a PlayStation.
Yep.
I'm one of them. If something releases on PlayStation and I want to play it, I play it. I get it. I bought the box. Now you don't even have to buy the box. You literally don't. They couldn't make it any easier on you. So just get excited for all the Bethesda stuff because you have easy access to it. So
yeah, whether it's going to be on PC, on mobile, or on an Xbox console, you can play it, and you can play it, and you can pay for it outright, or you can pay monthly. And what's crazy is I don't think Microsoft gets enough credit for it, or at least people are talking enough about it. And you know what? Before I actually talk about that, I'll bring Forte in on the back end, and I want you to come at this particular point. But Clowns, you have been very vocal on social media as well as your own shows about how Phil Spencer has addressed and how he's handled this like a champion. And I agree with. I'm not sure who said it earlier. Phil Spencer is getting I think Phil's getting to the point where it's almost a nuisance or an annoyance that he has to constantly defend the investment in their own platform, where again, when you compare it, and again, this is not a dig at Sony, folks. Listen, if you're wondering what I'm doing for Sony's PlayStation 5, that most of these so-called diehard PlayStation players aren't doing, I have 6 games pre-ordered, paid for in full. I have every peripheral. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Every peripheral they have released, I'm getting, and it's paid for, including the $500 PS5, not the digital one, because I like my discs for Sony. So if you're wondering whether or not I'm an Xbot, no, I'm a gamer. I'm spending at least $1,000 on Sony stuff. So this isn't me trying to take a dig at Sony, but unfortunately, you got to call a spade a spade. And Clowns, the spade in the conversation is these games even though you can play them on PC, you can play them on your Xbox, you can play them on your old Xbox, you can play them on your phone, you can play them on your tablet. You can't play them on the PlayStation 5, and I think that's perfectly fine. What are your thoughts on this interview with Phil Spencer?
You know, I gotta say this. I think that Phil's got to be very careful what he says because everybody likes to twist his words around. It's not like he said that it would never ever go to PlayStation in the future, but he said that it certainly will bring back the money that they spent just alone on their platform. And we had a discussion about this earlier on Mad's podcast, and I was kind of like on the opposite side of this, Bum. Like, I think that, to be honest with you, I don't think Phil is going to lock down every single Bethesda title or ZeniMax title to Xbox. I think he's going to maybe lock down a select few or a time limited. But I can't see him being the type of guy to lock out another console or another player base. I think the whole reason why he bought ZeniMax was not because to necessarily bring more value to the brand, but I think he was more worried about Google or Amazon purchasing ZeniMax in the future and in the long run. I think that Xbox and Microsoft want to lock down studios because they see going forward that we're going to be going into a cloud era of gaming, and Amazon is right on the heels of, Xbox Cloud, and Amazon is one company that could certainly pull it off at $5.99 a month for their beta service alone, and they got the same type of money to throw around as Microsoft. And to be honest, if Amazon or Google bought ZeniMax, that would screw both PlayStation and Microsoft. Xbox is no longer in competition with Sony. We got to keep remembering this. It's not about the competition between Microsoft and Sony because it really doesn't exist in the way that it used to. It's more that Xbox is worried about cloud competition coming from major competitors such as Amazon and Google. PlayStation can't even compare. Their market cap is nowhere near as close, and they couldn't even afford to buy half the studios that the big three are going to start to buy up. I think we're going to see a lot of condensation in the industry. I think we're going to see a lot of combinations, mergers, and I think we're going to see a lot of buyouts going forward. And hopefully, and I say this with a true gamer's heart, that I hope that Xbox gets a lot of these studios, because Phil is a gamer at heart, and he's not the type of guy that's going to come in and break the studios up if they don't deliver a hit after hit. He's not the type of guy that's going to, say, it's time for you guys to go, find a new job, or shutting you down. If anything, they would just restructure and move the teams around. Whereas if it was Amazon or Google, and let's say that Obsidian failed and didn't deliver a hit, the whole studio would just be shut down in a day. And I think that's what Xbox and Microsoft is trying to prevent. And on top of all this, we see value with the Orion service, and Satya doubled down on 5G, and he says he's actually going to help out tech companies invest in 5G to help telecommunication companies get better 5G service. This is all about the cloud, boom. This is it. This is the cloud. And maybe they'll use ZeniMax to push people towards the cloud. I mean, they could hold it out for exclusives on cloud for a length of time. I think in the long run, though, Phil is not worried about putting stuff on PlayStation or keeping stuff away from PlayStation. It's more about keeping it away from Amazon or Google.
No, I agree. But we also have to think about like this. Listen, I understand your point. And I know that everyone thinks it's Phil being, Phil's just a good guy. He's not going to hold games from PlayStation. He is. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Microsoft has consistently compared themselves as the Netflix of gaming. Netflix currently has 182.8 million subscribers. Understand that number. Almost nearly 183 million subscribers. Where can you play Netflix? On everything. Not anything, on your TV, your Xbox, your tablet, your phone, your watch, your refrigerator, your stove, wherever. Netflix, you can get that app, you can play it. Microsoft needs to build Game Pass. They want to be able to say, we have 50 million, we have 75, we have 100 million subscribers. And how you do that is giving content you can't find everywhere else. Because what is the point of trying to build Game Pass if you can just sit back and wait a year and get it on PlayStation? Why would you subscribe to Game Pass? You wouldn't, because we know that the Sony community would just bite their nose off to spite their face, because that's unfortunately the business that Sony is in and has literally taught them to be like. Hold your breath until they give it to you, because that's just the way a stubborn child is. No, I'm telling you right now, not only do I believe this is going to happen, I actually, as a gamer who has been watching from both the sidelines and now is on the field quarterbacking this show, I hope that happens. I hope that they keep everything to themselves. And if you are a PlayStation gamer, well, there is a console for you, or there's a tablet, or there's a PC, or there's a phone. You can play.
Well, let me ask you something, Bloom. So let's say going into next gen, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got Amazon, we got Google maybe trying to come harder with Stadia or rebranding Stadia. We got PlayStation, we got Xbox, and we got Nintendo, right? So if Microsoft is worried about Amazon and they're worried about Stadia, because obviously they're not worried about Nintendo, they just put Steve on Super Smash Brothers. So if they don't want PlayStation gamers going to Amazon or going to Stadia, right? How would they divert some of the money that PlayStation gamers might spend extra somewhere else? Why not?
Yeah. You would just buy an Xbox.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, you'd buy an Xbox, because if you are a Bethesda, if you are a Doom fan, if you are a fan of the Elder Scrolls, if you're a fan of Fallout, if you're a fan of any of the Bethesda titles in that, and there's quite a few of them, and you can't play them on PlayStation, you can't play them on Stadia, you cannot play them on Amazon, where can you play them? Well, I can only play them on Xbox. Well, I guess I'm buying an Xbox. And like I said, maybe this conversation is different if Microsoft said, well, you can only play it on a $300 box and a $500 box, tough titty. But no, they allow you to play on your PC. They're allowed to play on your phone. You're allowed to play on your tablet. And again, if you can't afford to spend outright the money, and a lot of people can't, because the world is the world. Right now, finances is tough for everyone. They give you a way as a consumer to afford to be an Xbox gamer. Again, I actually, the scenario that I actually see happening is people may actually buy a PlayStation 5 for $400 and $500, and while they're at that counter, be like, you know what? I can get a Series X for $35 a month. I can afford to do that. And I've been banging this drum, and you guys have heard me say this before. This is going to be the biggest generation with dual console support, because Microsoft is going to allow you to do that. Sony is not allowing you to do that. They don't have an all access program. They don't have Xbox Game Pass. They have the same old. Buy the console. Oh, and by the way, the games are $10 more. So I understand your point. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, clowns. I'm saying that I don't see that happening, because if everyone is interested and they want to know whether or not Microsoft is somehow going to make that $7.5 billion back, well, they just signed a contract with the U.S. government for $10 billion to use Azure servers. So there's your money back without even having to do anything else. So they don't need Sony. They don't need the PlayStation fans to buy the games on the PlayStation 5. What they want is PlayStation gamers to get involved in the ecosystem known as Xbox Game Pass and Xbox consoles. And that's how I think it's going to go, clowns. I don't think they're worried about Sony. And I agree with you. I think they're worried and concerned about the Amazons, the Apples, the Googles. And this is why, when we get into the next particular topic, why I think that their next acquisition, and I have been told this, is going to trump the Bethesda deal significantly. And if what we're going to talk about next is what happens, then you know they're in to play for keeps. But clowns, anyone else anything else you want to add to the conversation there, brother?
No, I think you do have some fair points. I mean, it is a good debate, and to be honest with you, I think with Phil, it's really hard to tell. He's very careful with his words, and it's almost like it's not a never thing, but I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe he just didn't come out and say it that way.
There's a lot he
case.
can't say, clowns, because remember, this deal is not officially done yet. It'll be done in February. So I think in February you're going to hear more about. No, if you want to play it, you got to play it here. But right now they're being very, very coy and very, very, cautious with their words, because the contract is signed. It just has to pass all the hurdles, and it's going to pass with no problem because the government would have already gotten involved. But clowns, let me move on to Gaming Forte. Forte, first of all, welcome to the program, brother. Thank you so much for being here as always. How are you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. Today was like a bunch of, I literally did 9 interviews today at work, and it was all for getting ready for the season, seasonal hiring.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had to hire 2 more key holders. So I was literally doing that up until 7:30 this afternoon.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to be here. First of all, let me thank our good friend Black Eye Dog, drops an outstanding $5 super chat all the way from the other side of the pond. And he says 3 weeks to go indeed. And we are counting 21 days till kickoff. And that, I cannot believe it's only 21 days. My God, I cannot believe it. But Forte, listen, you've heard everyone's opinion.
Absolutely.
You understand that Microsoft is trying to do something that only one other big company has done. This is the streaming wars that we're in. Content matters in the streaming wars. And obviously, like someone like me, I have Amazon Prime, I have Hulu, I have Shudder, I have Netflix, I have a half a dozen more services because Mrs. Boomstick and I love movies. We love watching movies, we love TV shows, and if we want to watch The Boys, which was amazing this season, right? I have to have Amazon. If I want to watch
Spice Girls,
well, I don't want to watch Spice Girls, but I mean, but if I wanted to watch Orange is the New Black, I would have to have Netflix. If I wanted to watch Hellstrom, which is coming out from Marvel, I'd have to have Hulu. I have all of those so we could watch these programs. Microsoft did something unlike anything ever done in gaming. And like I said, if what they're going to do next comes to fruition, it is going to be unbelievable. But keeping with the Bethesda deal, keeping with the Microsoft investment in their platform, more importantly in Xbox Game Pass, what are your thoughts on Phil Spencer's very, very strong comments about saying that they don't have to ship these games on other platforms?
I don't think he could have been any clearer than he actually has been about that over the course of basically just talking about it. Now, a lot of the stuff that he says, people want to go back and forth. Well, why won't he just come out and say exactly what's going on? Well, the ink is still not dry on this deal. So a lot of the stuff is still left up to an interpretation of what they're actually going to do going forward, because they don't technically own Bethesda yet. That's something that's not going to materialize until the beginning of next year, around February or March.
By the end of February, they'll be done. The deal.
It'll be done. And then at that point, you'll get a more clear picture on exactly what they're going to do. They haven't even talked about how ESO and stuff like that is still going to be available on those platforms. I do think those games will be there because they were already there before, but they haven't even talked about those games yet. So that's why I know a lot of this stuff is just it's gonna all be realized by the time that this acquisition is up. Now, when it comes to him talking about the games going forward, like all the newer games, and how $7.5 billion can't be made up unless you put stuff on the PlayStation platform, I think that is a huge fallacy that a lot of people believe in, because Microsoft isn't doing this to make the money back quick and easy. They're not trying to go for the jugular like that. Think about how they're trying to build Game Pass. Game Pass has been $1 for 2.5 years, almost 3 years. If Microsoft truly cared about trying to make as much money right now as possible, you don't think that they would have like took away that $1 deal, that $1 upgrade to let people pay the full price for admission to get it to Game Pass? No, they're still running that because they want to build that ecosystem, and that ecosystem is what they consider as their exclusive going forward. People say Xbox doesn't have any games, Xbox doesn't have this, they don't have that. And the reason that a lot of people were talking about when Halo got delayed, people was like, Microsoft's got to do something big. They need to go to somebody like Cyber. They need to go to CD Projekt Red and say, yo, what is it going to cost to put that into Game Pass? And CD Projekt Red was like, well, we don't want to be in Game Pass, so they couldn't make that deal or anything like that. But think about it. If it's not going in Game Pass, that's what Xbox wants. They don't want to own your game. They don't want to own it. They say we want it in this service because this service is what our exclusive is going to be. It's across all platforms with the exception of PlayStation and Nintendo. Those are the only places you can't get it. And the only way you're going to see those games, like everybody has clearly said on this podcast, is if it's not on Game Pass, if you don't have Game Pass on your platform, it's not going to be there. And another thing that people don't realize is it came out today that Phil Spencer also talked about how cloud services is going to work and how all of these Xboxes right now that people have in their homes are going to be converted over to be used as streaming services for you to be using at home. So guess what? Even when they discontinue selling physical hardware, not physical hardware, but physical discs for your original Xbox, and they say, hey, we're not, all of the games going forward will only be on the newer systems. That doesn't mean when it comes to streaming, because if we learned anything about when it came to Google Stadia, you could run those games on a potato as long as you got the bandwidth and the internet connection that could actually stick up with it. So what happens with all of these 30 to 40 million Xboxes out there that are running on the S, they're running on the original X, those instantly become service provider boxes for Game Pass and for streaming services, so you don't even have to go out and buy anything, even if you already have the system. I just think Microsoft and Xbox is basically just working on their core competency, which they are good at, which is being relevant in the space of services. And services is what's key for Microsoft. And if you're not in that ecosystem with them, then you're going to fall to the wayside. That's why I think the deal with GameStop was super important, because it gives them an avenue to have a footprint in a marketplace where they don't want to be in anymore. Microsoft is tired of doing the hard lifting on their own when it comes to trying to force you to buy something that you don't want. And if you don't want to buy an Xbox and you already have a PC, there, you can get into it through the PC ecosystem. If you got a mobile phone, you can get into it there too. We don't have to make $7.5 billion back in 2-3 years. We can do it like we did with Minecraft, when it took us 5 or 6 years to do it, because even Minecraft wasn't built around gaming. The whole deal around Minecraft was built around the IP itself and all the marketability that game gave them when it came to IP licensing, when it came to merchandising. They sell more stuff when it comes to like collectibles from Minecraft than they probably sell when it comes to the game. They make more money on the side that's not the game. And that's what you're going to see with this acquisition. It's going to be about boasting what Game Pass can do for them. And that is the true exclusive for Microsoft. And unless Sony or Nintendo, and we do know that that Nintendo was reached to when it came to putting Game Pass and Xbox Live on the Nintendo Switch, and they turned that down. And I think that's the only way you're going to see those games on those other platforms. Outside of that, I think I had told you guys this a long time ago. PlayStation took a lot of gamers away from Xbox this generation. And I've been the first one to say that Xbox hasn't done enough to convince people that were on PlayStation to buy an Xbox. Now, as this generation, the generation we're going through, starts to materialize in front of you, and we start getting closer and closer to those games coming out like Avowed or Starfield and all these other Bethesda games, and we start seeing what the initiative has. Once you start seeing that and people say, yo, I can get these games for a quarter of the price and not even have to pay for them if I just go out and buy an Xbox. That Xbox is basically saying for $35 a month, I can get their highest end system, and I can still play my PlayStation exclusives on PlayStation and still have an Xbox to play everything else. That's where this is going. And that's what I think the whole multi-owner consoleship is going to come back into play. There's going to be more people this generation that's going to own both consoles just because Game Pass is going to become such a amazing value throughout the year. It's already a great value now. We always say Game Pass is like, how can you say Game Pass can be any better? But once these games start dropping from all of these developers that they have, that's 3-4 years out, then it becomes a value that you can't even, like, what price can you put on that at that point? So it's only time's going to tell, but I do think Microsoft is heading in the right direction when it comes to this. And Phil Spencer, he's basically telling you guys right now, either play on the platforms that we support or, don't play our games. And Boom is muted.
Oh man!
I
am muted. I was just
talking.
Shout
out to Boom for being muted on his own podcast. That's something. You know what, Boom? You know what that's like? That's like Ashley Luca on Scumcast. She mutes and forgets that the podcast is still going.
Excuse me? I know the podcast is still going. I just trust my panel to handle everything, sir.
Right. Well, you know what, Luca? I was surely about to take over because I thought Boom probably fell asleep at the computer or something.
No, I'm actually looking at the chat. Listen, folks, we're past 650 people here, which is amazing. This is a great show. This is a great podcast, and obviously we have some big numbers here tonight. If you're new, I want to say welcome with open arms. This is a show that celebrates gaming. Yes, we are talking about Xbox versus PlayStation because it's a conversation that we're having, but we're not bashing. We don't bash on this program. So if you're new, I want to say consider joining and hitting that like button. We definitely appreciate that. And of course, if you are here and you are a fan, hit the like button. Let's try and get about half the likes. Let's try and get about 350 likes before we get on out of here. But I want to thank the Itchy, who drops a very generous $5 super chat and says Sony needs to reconsider the Microsoft Game Pass offer for PlayStation, or they're going to repeat the Nintendo deal that didn't happen, aka the NES CD. That's not that's how the PlayStation was born, indeed. And I don't know if they're ever going to do that.
Yeah, let me respond. I'm gonna respond to that because that's something that a lot of people always say. You're not wrong in saying that this is the direction they're going in. And a lot of people want this, but I do think a lot of people want it because they see such a value with it on the Xbox. At the moment, you got to remember, Xbox did this out of necessity. They did this because they had to find a way to change the narrative that was like circulating around Xbox. And that's why this deal came into play, because competition. They had to do something different to stand apart. Now, ultimately, this is a deal that PlayStation might have to do, but they're going to do it whenever they feel like it's good for them to do it. So right. I caution people to say that they have to do something, because guess what? They sold over 120 million systems this generation, and half that generation Game Pass was a thing. Now, over the course of the rest of the beginning of the next generation, Game Pass is going to get stronger and stronger. It is going to make an even bigger point for for PlayStation to probably adopt that. But as we've seen through the last two generations, whatever Microsoft started, PlayStation started doing it right after them. So this is probably going to happen, but you won't probably see it during the PS5 era. It could be possibly something that will happen with the next system that they release, especially if they see it catch fire, like how Xbox Live being paid for during the 8th generation. As soon as they started the PS4 generation, that's when they turned the faucet on and said you had to pay for PlayStation Plus to be able to play in that ecosystem, because they saw Microsoft was able to make that work for so long. So Game Pass has to prove itself over this generation. And if it does, and I do think it will, then you'll see PlayStation make that pivot to do the same thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No doubt about that. But listen, what I want to do is I want to move on to the next very big topic of the evening, and continuing the conversation of publisher/developer acquisitions. There's been a ton of interest and speculation onto what the $1.7 trillion company known as Microsoft will ultimately do next. Now, this has led to much discussion within the gaming community on whether Microsoft will continue to invest in the Xbox platform, but more importantly, who can be added to Xbox Game Studios that already has a massive 23 first-party studios with over 35 teams working on games for both the Xbox and PC. Now, immediately after the big acquisition, head of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, was interviewed by CNET about the purchase and what the future plans may entail. And here is what his exact response was. You can't wake up one day and say, let me build a game studio. The idea of having content is so we can reach a larger community. That's why Microsoft will consider buying even more video game companies in the future. Now, look, we had originally heard that WB Games was a possibility. Microsoft, for your information, was in the talks. They were in the ring, along with several other of the big publishers known as Activision. You had 2K there, you had EA there, but the big boy, the Ugandan giant, if you will, of the ring was Microsoft. And if you don't know, right now, Microsoft is worth more than all three of those companies on their best Friday combined. So if someone was going to walk in and knock everybody out of the ring during a battle royal, it was going to be Papa Microsoft. Now, this is again, folks, I want people to understand what we're going to talk about is very speculative. We have no confirmation, so take what we're going to talk about with a grain of salt. But something that I heard late Friday afternoon that completely blew my mind, and that was the rumor that Microsoft had already purchased Ubisoft, and that announcement was coming right before the launch of the Series X and S, which obviously is November 10th, 2020, specifically in 3 weeks. Now, this comes to us, and again, I want you to understand. I have to say it because I'm going to get it in the comments. Take this with a grain of salt. We have no confirmation, but we are hearing that, things are starting to happen that may kind of start, little evidence here and there that suggested. I mean, perfect example, Rainbow Six Siege confirmed for Xbox Game Pass. That's the first big Ubisoft title to come into the platform, and that's on the heels of the addition of Sam Fisher from Splinter Cell. That, obviously that's a very popular game, and that is now in Game Pass, which is pretty epic. But according to you/Writing Fox of Reddit, and as of this show, because I checked today, it is an unverified story. So understand that, again, take this with a grain of salt. This is what they had to say, and I'm going to bring up bring it up on the screen for you right now so you can take a look at it. Here we go. This is what Writing Fox had to say on the subject. He says, on the next following weeks, here in Europe, people are still not decided about having the Xbox as their console of choice. As mentioned in a recent interview with Tom Warren, The Verge, with the acquisition, this can be a game changer and would reverse the tables for the next generation. My sources ensure me that Microsoft has acquired Ubisoft. I don't mind if you don't believe me, but this will be announced in the next few weeks. Now, folks, again, take this with a grain of salt, but I want to bring up a picture and see what this does because it gave me goosebumps when I saw it. But just the same way we saw the Bethesda's picture come up on very early Monday morning on September 21st, could you imagine if you wake up a couple of Mondays from now and you see this? If you see this and I see this, I'm telling you, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it because, first of all, Ubisoft, for me personally, is probably my favorite developer right next to Capcom. And if this comes to fruition, Microsoft has just won the generation. I'm going to tell you that right now, because if you turn around and you add all of these IPs along with these incredible development houses to Xbox Game Studios, and you can only play it on an Xbox or PC via Game Pass, well, folks, I think that they have significantly drawn a line in the sand. Now, obviously, take it with a grain of salt. We don't know if this is going to happen, but I thought it was worthy of a conversation. So, Luca, I want to go to you first on this because obviously you are our special guest. Now, listen, Microsoft just got $10 billion from the U.S. government. That's paid in full for the use of the Azure servers for their military. And that obviously clears out that $7.5 billion that they just invested into, of course, Bethesda and ZeniMax. Hearing Satya Nadella say that, listen, you just can't wake up and build a new studio, but we are going to invest because we need content. They need content for Xbox Game Pass. And obviously, like Clowns was saying, you kind of want to keep these companies away from the Tencents, which is from China. You want to keep them away from Google. You want to keep them away from Apple. You want to keep them away from all of the big. Amazon has just announced their streaming service. If this comes to fruition, what would this do to the industry moving forward?
Well, wow, that's a lot to take in. All right, so the first thing I want to say is that you specified that this should be taken with a grain of salt, but I would be very surprised if Microsoft decided to buy Ubisoft for several reasons. One of them being that Ubisoft just evaded a hostile takeover from Vivendi in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if they want to be owned by a larger corporation. And, Ubisoft is also working with Tencent. They refer to Tencent as like a long-term investor. So there's that too. And the bigger thing, I won't go into any specifics, but from a PR standpoint, Ubisoft has had some very bad press. And like I said, I won't go into any detail or anything, but they've had some very bad press over the last few months. So I would be surprised if Microsoft wanted to take that press on, if you know what I mean, especially in regards to what it's referring to. So that's how I feel about it. It's the bad press that makes me say, I don't know about this one.
I mean, obviously, what she's referring to is the sexual harassment that has gone on, apparently,
years.
For not only for years, but it is company wide. Now, is it all of the Ubisoft? I honestly couldn't say.
It was the people. Okay, so Ubisoft. The people who are the executives, they're a family. Like they're all part of the same family, right?
Yes, they are.
All part of the same family and all really good friends with one another. The people who they would put in charge were close friends with them, and the abuse would stem from the top, and it went down. So.
Well, obviously, yeah, they've been. I mean, they've had to suspend and certainly fire a lot of people. A lot of people have been let go. Certainly, big positions at Ubisoft has been changed because this stuff got out there. And obviously, the Me Too movement, which is super, super important, has wreaked its ugly head at Ubisoft. And again, I agree with you, Luke. I don't necessarily know if Microsoft would want to take on such such a chaotic situation, especially in PR.
Maybe give it a year or so. But see, these allegations against Ubisoft, they've been like ongoing for years now, and it's only gained a commercial traction this year in regards to them actually doing something about it. I don't know how to say dude's name. Yves.
Yes, Yves.
Yves Guillemot.
Okay, yeah, him.
Yeah. We're bilingual in Canada. So.
Yes, that's good. He came through like, "Hey, yo, I had no idea this was going on." I'm like, "Yo, good buddy, that was your best friend. I don't know what you're talking about. You were definitely aware. You were probably doing that stuff too." So I don't know. I don't know if they would want to take on that kind of press. And then there was also like a smaller term in which Ubisoft put out like a mobile game that got some bad press as well in regards to the Black Lives Matter movement. So. I don't know. They're looking a little shaky this year, Ubisoft, in regards to how the media is viewing them, minus just the games division. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe if it were to be a thing, I would give it a year at least, so people can, maybe just, hey, this was a thing, but we cleaned it up and it's all good now. So.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously right now, the good press seems to be, at least the good vibes press seems to be on Microsoft's side for many reasons. They are obviously a very inclusive company, and they don't tolerate any of that kind of shenanigans. They definitely, again, I don't know if a situation, would potentially keep them from buying Ubisoft. I mean, it's certainly worthy of a conversation, because you don't want to buy like, say, for instance, if you were in you were shopping for a car dealership and that car dealership was selling lemons and was in trouble by the government for doing so, would you want to invest? Probably not. So that could be the situation. But also, again, going back to what Clowns is saying earlier, I don't think Sony is their real competitor right now. I think it's all of the other trillion-dollar companies in Apple and Amazon and Google that might look past this particular situation to snap up a company like Ubisoft. And could you imagine? Oh my God! Could you imagine if you had to have a Google Stadia to play the next Splinter Cell or Assassin's Creed? Oh my God! I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So it was this is grain of salt, folks.
Yeah.
I put it to this way: there is a big announcement coming. Now, how big that announcement is, I couldn't tell you. But I can tell you that there's going to be something that's going to be released right before the console goes up for sale. And it's going to, and again, this just harkens back to what happened the Monday before pre-orders went crazy. Now, it was strategically done. Hey, listen, we just bought ZeniMax and Bethesda, and pre-orders is that next Tuesday. Folks, it's something like that is going to happen again. I don't know how big it is, but I know that it's a publisher. That is what I've been told. Do I know specifically what publisher that is? No, I don't. And even if I did, I probably couldn't give that information out, so I'd have to play dumb. But honestly, I don't know. I know that it is a publisher, not a developer. So whatever it is going to be big. But just for shits and giggles.
I mean, it would be really cool if they bought Ubisoft, because Assassin's Creed would be in Game Pass, and I wouldn't have to
certainly
fork up that
would.
cash, man. That'd be awesome.
And I always get the $120 edition because I like all the bells and whistles. So they would definitely save me a pretty penny. I could just buy the extra season pass and stuff without actually having to buy the big package.
Yeah, me and my game share partner always go for the bigger expansion. So.
Well, you get all all the bells and whistles. You get the expansion pass, which with all the DLC, which is what I like. I'm a big Ubisoft fan, folks. I know that right now their internals are not doing well, especially if you're a female. And shame on them. I'm glad that they're being exposed. So hopefully they'll clean up that company, because that's unacceptable behavior. But I want to go to a Mag next on this, because obviously, when you talk about Ubisoft, you talk about, potentially, I know that they have some places in Canada.
Yes, they do.
Which you actually had a chance to visit recently, which is pretty cool. But just for a second, again, let's for just shits and giggles here, think that this is a possibility.
Right.
The idea that what Microsoft already has in 23 studios. Let's just look, Mag, at some of the IPs that could potentially become. It's ridiculous to even suggest such a thing. You have Assassin's Creed, The Division, Watch Dogs, Far Cry, Beyond Good and Evil, Ghost Recon, and the newly announced Immortals Phoenix Rising. And that's just to name a few. And there's a boatload of more of IPs. But more importantly, the development houses that make these games are some of the best in the business. And if Microsoft did by some chance purchase Ubisoft, adding this publisher / developer to their XGS, it would propel them to almost 30 first-party studios with over 50 IP. And that would be really, again, just imagine that the sales of Xbox Game Pass could potentially double just based on these two publishers that they picked up. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the way I'm looking at this whole situation is that, picture a blackboard in front of you. Before I get to Ubisoft, I want to get to the laneway that took me there. In my mind, anyway, I just pictured a blackboard and I just envisioned what studios and publisher options I could put on there, and to quickly run through the pros and cons, do's and don'ts, and you start to narrow down the possibilities. Now, I want to go through what things that people have been saying in the chat and on social media and so forth. For example, the first things first, some people are saying CD Projekt Red, solid choice, great games, very expensive, very slow turnover of game releases. That does not fit the Game Pass model. So they're out, in my mind anyway. Okay, they will support them in other ways. Not worth the money if that's what you're trying to do. Now, like buying Rockstar, imagine buying Rockstar. One game every generation. That's not going to work for Game Pass, right? Same thing. So that's out. EA Activision, not on the table. That's obvious. Now let's put there still is a possibility. I mean, I know it's minute, but there's still a possibility that WB Games might still be on that table. I mean,
Absolutely, for sure.
No one said no. I mean, they might have said, that they're not selling their division, right? Oh, we're not selling the division off, and but they'd just be saying that to deflect speculation. Now, let's move to Japan.
Yeah, talk about it. I know what you're going to say.
Okay, people have been saying From Software, nope. I'll tell you right now, that's a big no. Sorry, Luca. I know you like those games, but those games are a niche market.
No, they are. I agree.
It's a niche market. I know you love those games.
Yeah, no, they're I mean, listen, it's not for everyone, and regardless of what hardcore Souls fans say, they are difficult games to get into.
Oh, halfway through Sekiro, I was going to throw myself out the window. But anyways, I got to tell you, it's not big enough to garner major attention. Okay, so some From Software out. What does that leave me with?
That leaves me with my favorite company of all time.
Okay, well, no, we're getting there.
Mine too, boom.
With Sega, you got no one's talking about Sega. I mean, some people brought up Sega, and now no one's really talking about it because Ubisoft sort of kind of overshadowed it. But Sega's still in the race, and it makes sense to me. Now, if you think about it, what does Sega have? They got a whole well of IPs to dip into. Okay, they have legacy status. Just think about their history with Nintendo and the 80s and the 90s and those console wars, for us old enough to remember those, right? And it would give them that Japanese clout that they were looking for. Now, the other one, boom, this is just for you, buddy. It's Capcom. And we know it's pretty damn obvious why that would be the ultimate Japanese acquisition.
Yes.
Imagine having that, you're excited about Ubisoft? Imagine having that stable of IPs in their wheelhouse. Now, also remember, Xbox, by the way, here's another thing. Xbox and Capcom have a great working relationship.
They absolutely do.
Yes. And you remember when Game Pass started? A lot of Capcom titles have, and still, by the way, are still in Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're a contender. So now what we narrowed it down to? We still narrowed it down to WB Games, Capcom, Sega, which leaves us with what? Ubisoft.
Yeah.
My favorite third-party developer. I'm not talking about their behind-the-scenes shenanigans and is deplorable what's going on over there. They'll fix that up. They'll clean it. Okay? They'll clean house. But I'm talking about in terms of their product. They are my favorite third-party developer.
Mine too.
This is the one, boom. Okay, whether it happens or not, that's irrelevant. This is the great white buffalo. This is the one that they got to get. Okay? This is the one they got to get. So first of all, any talk of monopoly, by the way, is utterly ridiculous, and I'll tell you why. Last night, I looked it up, okay? Monopoly laws in the United States, okay, under the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 states that a company has a market share of 75% or more within a community or area is considered a monopoly. Microsoft is nowhere close to this, okay? So that narrative can be immediately put to bed, by the way, okay? I looked it up. I read it up. You're damn right. I looked it up, and I'm not a lawyer. Anyways, back to Ubisoft. How attractive is this company, and how well do they fit the bill for Xbox's future in Game Pass? Ubisoft has every tool in their shed to that would create the perfect symmetry for that kind of business model. You have a company that has the ability to crank out 4 to 5 AAA bangers a year. And you named them off, boom. Okay, you got your Assassin's Creed, your Watch Dogs, your Far Cry, your Splinter Cell. By the way, Ubisoft were waiting.
Yeah.
Okay, and many more. And then they have a very successful games as a service, like For Honor and Rainbow Six Siege, which coincidentally is in Game Pass. Okay, that game alone, by the way, has over 55 million players. That is absolutely perfect for Game Pass and bolstering those numbers. Anyone else starting to connect the dots here? I mean, come on, guys. Valhalla gets moved, okay, to meet the Xbox launch date. Rainbow Six Siege magically shows up in Game Pass. I mean, something is definitely up. Satya said it himself, and you said it about 50 minutes ago, Boo. Why build a studio from the ground up when you could buy? And Ubisoft cranks out bangers like a German organ grinder during Oktoberfest. Okay? This is a match made in heaven. And it would be monstrous for Xbox. Monstrous. If it happens, it remains to be seen. Okay? We all said this. This is all speculation. Okay? And by the way, a quick side note. I had this thought about Phil's philosophy. This actually ties into this whole thing and his vision in regards to this. Okay? And I know we sort of touched on it earlier, but I mean, did anyone really stop to think for 2 seconds why these things are actually happening? Why they're buying these studios? Besides the money, we know that. But if you dig deeper, I don't know Phil personally, okay? But I do know he cares about this industry. And I know when someone works from the heart. I can tell you, as an executive chef, I can tell you that food tastes better when you cook from the heart. Okay,
absolutely. My wife says that all the time, and when I tell you, Mrs. Boomstick puts a foot in the pot, when she does, she knows how to cook. And every time you don't cook when you cook with some sort of anger or
you taste it, man.
You absolutely do. She says that all the time.
Okay, you cook from the heart, and people can feel it. And the reason why I brought that up is because I can feel the same thing from the moves that Phil is making. And the way I'm thinking about this, from his words and his actions, I think, besides money, I think he's making these moves to preserve the gaming world as we know it. I know that sounds so ridiculously melodramatic, but honestly, hear me out. From the GameStop partnership to keeping those devs and publishers out of the hands of not Sony, but Google and Amazon, who I fear, honestly, would devalue our beloved games industry. That's just my personal thoughts there. I think, he's basically the same age as us, just a few years older, okay? And he grew up the same way we did. So I think he's trying to preserve that world that we all know and grew up with and try to keep it the way it is before it becomes a faceless corporate, Amazon and Google. Because you know what? If they bought Ubisoft and things didn't work out, they would just dissolve them. They wouldn't care.
Exactly.
Amazon would care? Yeah. Not a chance. So, but you could tell he does. Anyways, that was just a little side note. It just popped in my head. I just had to get it because I know a couple other people talked about, we're just kind of touching on that earlier. Either way, whatever happens in the next few weeks, honestly, color me super excited. Okay. And if I was in a casino right now, I'd be dropping lavender chips on Ubisoft.
Oh, I like the way you think. Listen, let's bring Clowns into the conversation. I know you said Clowns, you just said privately you wanted to add something, but I want to get your opinion on it. Again, this is one of those topics you take with a huge grain of salt, and that's fine. But based on the way it's presented, not only by myself but by Mag, it definitely could be a conversation because of what this particular publisher can bring to what is most important to Microsoft right now, and it's not the consoles. It's the services. And when you have a game like Rainbow Six Siege, which has over 55 million players coming into Xbox Game Pass magically, and this happens in the same weekend that this rumor by Writing Fox, who I don't know who it is, so I don't know whether or not he's trustworthy, but the fact that I'm not the only one talking about this, some of the trades are talking about this. This would be a monster deal, but it would be a way for Microsoft to fend off the Amazons, Apples, and Googles, who we know when something doesn't work, they cut them off at the ankles. And it would be terrible for a publisher like Ubisoft that has so many beloved IPs to go and be locked down to a Stadia. That would be awful. What are your thoughts on this potential acquisition? Is it possible, Clowns? Clowns, are you there, brother?
Well, yep, I'm here. There's a couple things that I'm iffy on. Number one, I know that we saw the Rainbow Six Siege tease, but it is also in PS Now. It was in PS Now as of May 6, 2020, and it's due to come out November 2nd of 2020. So I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe that Ubisoft would be a good pickup for Microsoft. Now, I do want to say something else that Mag mentioned was Warner Brothers, right? So today, nonchalantly, and most people did not notice this, but it's been in a few magazines that discuss like recording media and artists and such. Warner Music received an investment from a private investor of $250 million to buy masters to own the copyrights to other artists. Now, what do we know about Warner Brothers and AT&T? They were in massive debt, right? So where did they get this money for this private investor? Could this be some type of deal that Microsoft struck with the WB Games division to help them with their debt and buy some licensing or some IP. Not only was there, that WB was in and AT&T was in some debt, but DC Comics was not doing so well either this year. They did a lot of layoffs. A lot of prints are going down. They almost went bankrupt. So who's not to say that Microsoft also did not strike a deal to co-license anything from DC? So Mag may be onto something. Maybe they did do something with WB. I'm not saying that they're still not going with Ubisoft, but I think that we may see something from WB.
I mean, listen, you never know, and you know what? Let me sound like a greedy prick. How about they buy them both? I'm just saying.
Nice.
Listen, I don't have that checkbook, folks, and this is coming from an armchair quarterback that only has 6,700 subs. So what the hell do I know? But I can tell you that if we're gonna go for gold, let's push all the chips on and bet on black. That's just my opinion, and I say buy them both. But let's get Tempest Sun in the conversation. Tempest, listen, there's again the rumor of another acquisition has gone from rumor status to pretty much it's going to happen. The question is, when is it going to happen? And who is going to be next? Now, Mag, he painted a great picture. It's a Picasso, in my opinion. And obviously, when you say Capcom, now you're talking because their IPs are as important as, like, say, Walt Disney. I mean, you have Dino Crisis, you have Street Fighter, you have Ghosts and Goblins, you have Onimusha, you have Resident Evil. It just goes on and on and on what would be coming over. What are your thoughts on this, dude? I mean, is there a chance that Ubisoft joins Xbox Game Studios?
First of all, outside of maybe EA or Activision, or probably Take-Two as well, anything is possible at this point. After Bethesda, the sky is quite literally the limit. So anything we're talking about here isn't far-fetched. Nobody's mentioned the 2018 route they went, where they just handpicked 5 developers. That's also a possibility as well. Doesn't mean it's going to be a publisher that they buy. By far, hands down, the one I'd want them to get the most, hands down, no questions asked, is Capcom.
Right.
That a significant portion of all my gaming time has been Capcom games, outside of MMOs, of course, have been Capcom games. We didn't even mention Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter single-handedly owns Japan. It's like the biggest thing over there. I can't even stress enough.
And what are they trying to launch in Japan? What are they trying to push in Japan?
Oh yeah,
it's called xCloud. It's called Xbox Game Pass. And wouldn't it be pretty epic to have Monster Hunter as a first-party game? Wow.
Oh yeah. I don't know. If they bought Capcom, now over here, when you think of something like Bethesda, like me personally, I know some people have. Obviously, even on this panel, there were some differing opinions on if they'd be exclusive or not. I don't know how they would handle buying something like a Capcom over there. Do you take it away from Nintendo? Because half of the Monster Hunter games are Nintendo. Yes, yeah. I think they'd have to be careful over there.
Well, they have two. They have 2 exclusives coming next year.
Exactly,
Monster Hunter. So all those contracts would be honored.
Yeah. And but what it does is it ensures that whatever they make is going to be in Game Pass over here and probably exclusive over here. But I don't know if they would do that over in Japan. But I could talk all night about my love for Capcom. Seriously, I could. Maybe I should just record a video of me saying how awesome Capcom
you should
is for hours.
Do it.
But yeah, love them. But now, like I said, the sky really is the limit, man. It could be any one of these companies, really. For some weird reason, Valhalla is one of my most anticipated games. I can't wait for that game. I am so excited to play it. I loved Odyssey. Odyssey is in my top 5 for this generation. Absolutely loved it. I played the heck out of Rainbow Six Siege. I look at Ubisoft and I love and play a lot of their games, but for some weird, strange reason, when the rumors hit that they might have bought Ubisoft, it just struck me as odd. I don't know what it is. There's something about that. Maybe it's the lack of, I don't want to say lack of, but when I think of Ubisoft, I just think of a lot of good games that I enjoy. I don't think of characters. When I think of Capcom, I instantly think of characters from Street Fighter, Resident Evil. I think of stuff like that. I think of the monsters from Monster Hunters because they are characters. I can name you almost every Monster Hunter monster there is. I know that's super nerdy and weird, but I can do it. So that's what I think of that stuff. Like when I think of Ubisoft, I do think of Sam Fisher, and I think of Jade from Beyond Good and Evil. Outside of that, a lot of their stuff is, user created characters, and I don't know, man. It just struck me as weird. I wouldn't mind it because I play most of their games and they would be in Game Pass. So selfishly, I'm like, yeah, sure, bring it on. But I mean, it even hit me as way more weird than like WB. Like WB, I instantly think of stuff like Mortal Kombat and the Batman series with not Rockstar, what was it? Rocksteady.
Rocksteady.
Yeah. So I don't know. It would be strange to me, but it'd be amazing. And like you said, Boom, what? Be greedy and buy both because it's just more games for us on Game Pass. Like, I'm sorry, it is what it is. But as it's what I will end with though, as it stands now, even if they weren't to ever buy another developer, they're set. They're set. That Bethesda deal was so big, and as it sits now, like I've been saying this all the time, but if they made like a Smash Brothers style game, they would have practically as big of a roster as like Nintendo does. It's crazy the amount of characters that they own, the IPs that they own. So they're set now, and if they add anything to it, it's all gravy, baby. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Cyber, let's bring you to the conversation. Listen, if people are wondering what the market cap value, what Microsoft would actually have to spend, I actually looked it up. It would be $9 billion to buy Ubisoft if you wanted to know the price. Now, yes, is that a little bit more than the Bethesda deal? And yes, it is. But the amount of IP that would come over is just monstrous. And considering they just signed a $10 billion deal with the U.S. government, again, the money they invested, they got back, and they could reinvest that money and get more people into Xbox Game Pass. And that is ultimately what they want to do. I'm sure that if you sat down and you talked privately with Satya Nadella and Phil Spencer, they want to be that company to be able to say, we have 100 whatever million subscribers to Xbox Game Pass, and it's the most important thing to our gaming division as well as what continuously brings in the money. For you personally, Cybernox, what are your thoughts on this Ubisoft rumor? Is there any validity to it?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that every time somebody mentions Splinter Cell, this comes into my mind. Every night in my dreams, I see you. I feel
who sings this song?
you.
Who sings this song?
Apparently Cyber does.
I want to know what's the name of the lady that sings this song?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Celine Dion.
Okay.
It's Celine Dion.
Yeah.
And she's French, by the way.
Yeah, Boom, we just lost 400 viewers.
We just got
We're down to 103 viewers. Thanks, Cyber. Great work.
Anyways, with all seriousness, I think, listen, as much as I'm with everyone else that I would love this acquisition to take place, Ubisoft, I'm kind of, I don't know. I think it comes with a lot of baggage, kind of what Luca alluded to earlier. I see more of Uplay Plus coming to Game Pass, kind of like EA Play came to Game Pass, than them actually acquiring Ubisoft. However, Capcom, that's looking a lot more promising in my eyes.
Thank you, Cyber. That is so smart of you. Thank you. Yes.
What I saw, kind of what Boom said, they just got a big government contract. They also have that money that was allocated to that TikTok purchase that they were going to buy. They fell through. So they do have money to spend. The question is where they're going to spend it. What Mag said was really smart. They need games on Game Pass that are going to be rapidly available in a couple, let's say you can launch them, every every year or so. The big publishers that we know of, or the big developers that we know of, kind of like everybody wanted, like CD Projekt Red or Rockstar, something like that. Just it wouldn't make sense for Game Pass. Now Ubisoft I can see, but like I said, I think Uplay Plus is more likely to be integrated into the Game Pass service. I think that's pretty more of a smart play. I think I mentioned this before on another podcast. I don't think they're paying as much as we think they are for these merging of these services. I think it could be, some money up front, and then it's a per download basis kind of transaction. So yeah, I think it would make sense for both companies, especially since you see Game Pass numbers just keep going up and up, and then these other subscription services, they kind of plateau. But Capcom, I can really see, it would there's definitely a lot of genres in the Capcom family that would fill out a lot more voids, and a lot of games that are available now that a lot of people are in love with, that are actually on Game Pass now. So that's where I'm at. I think Ubisoft may be coming as a service on the Xbox Game Pass, but if they were going to purchase somebody, I think it would be a company like Capcom.
Boom. Boom's muted again.
Oh, you guys want me to sing? I'll sing more. I'll
no
keep on going.
singing, sir, please.
Oh, sorry.
I was
trying to hold it down. I was trying to hold it down.
I appreciate that very much. Your service is welcomed here, but we're gonna have to just mute your mic if you start singing. No, I'm just kidding. Let me catch up with some of these super chats Forte before I bring you into conversation. It just moved. Hold on just a second. Santry is going to be the first one that I bring up, and let me just catch up with that. Hopefully I can find it, because sometimes this chat just goes so quick. I got a big shout out to 650 people here. Thank you so much for keeping this chat really moving quick. Sastry drops a very generous $5 super chat. Says, I feel like Xbox took Sony attacks personally from the start of the generation, and they are coming to win this gen. They will be nice but not bullied. Oh, that's a great point. And yes, Sony's been taking shots for years. Very good friend of the show, Philly Eagle, drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Microsoft didn't take out a loan to throw $7.5 billion at the ZeniMax deal. This was a regular transaction. They don't even blink no need to think too hard on it. Yeah, that they have a tremendous amount of a war chest full of cash ready to spend and invest. And that was not a loan. That was actually literally cash that they had on hand. We have Bounty Boom drops a very, another generous donation of $2. And he says, hit that like button. Great show. Thank you so much for that. As always, certainly appreciate your generosity. Let me see. Let's find the other one. We also have, hold on a sec. I'm sorry about that. This chat is flying by. Okay, we also have Sastry drops another, generous $2 super chat. Says, I swear Mooch is on the show under another name. Yeah, that's of course we're talking about Mag. Yeah, he does. He's the Canadian Mooch for sure. Restored Hades drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, if they got Capcom, they would have a studio for KI. Indeed, yes, we definitely need a proper Killer Instinct 2, one of my favorite fighting games, pretty much of this entire generation. The Living Flame drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Xbox, please bring back the Blue Bomber. Oh yeah, that would be great. Love to see the Blue Bomber come back. Regulator 951, a very generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat. $5 super chat and says, this. Just stop by to show some love to Boom and your awesome panel. Cyber's voice is a mixer of Fergie and Jesus. It's great to see Luca on the panel. God. Yes, it certainly is. And that's pretty funny. We have Sycamore 007 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says this: Microsoft won't be buying any publishers anytime soon. Next year, but not this year. Well, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, but that's not what me and King have heard, and we have sources very close to the situation. But again, we will see. Now, Forte, listen. I enjoy your opinion because not only do you handle these kinds of conversations from a fan's perspective, but because you're at the business aspect, where from a business point of view, like if you remember on Breakfast with Broom, you were integral in talking about how big of a deal the GameStop Microsoft connection was, and what that means for both companies. And
Right.
when you look at what Microsoft is investing in, it's easy to say Microsoft is investing in the future. Sure, of course they are, but their future is now, and their consoles are coming out. But in order to get people to buy said consoles, to potentially play on their tablets and on their phones and on their PCs, they need an attractive service like Xbox Game Pass. And the way that you make it even more attractive is if you add a Capcom or a Ubisoft. What are your thoughts on this Ubisoft rumor?
Look, man, I swear I think there's some type of there'll be like some type of thing they have to pass. Like, is this a monopoly at this point? You got pretty much all the biggest publishers inside of your wheelhouse outside of like Take-Two.
Real quick, Mags did say he made a really good point about how it's not, bro. I just wanted to put that out there. But go ahead.
It's definitely not a monopoly. We know that. A monopoly would mean they would have the majority of everything, and that's not even half of it, because there's so many other smaller studios out there that still make stuff. It would take a lot to be that. But overall, it's interesting. I think the thing is, when we sit back and we think about it, no one expected Microsoft and Xbox to come out and spill $7.5 billion on something like gaming, because up until this point, a lot of us was really wondering how committed Microsoft was committed to gaming. Now, we knew Phil Spencer was committed to it. We knew that was the message that he was been trying to push throughout this entire generation, but we didn't know that Microsoft was fully behind it until now. This is when, Satya Nadella comes out there and he's doing commercials and he's throwing first pitches to people, and then all of a sudden Master Chief and all his friends come out and they're all taking a picture on the greens, and then after that he says we're 100% in gaming and we're not done. So these are all moves that definitely can happen. The only thing that kind of makes me think that the Ubisoft thing is probably more of a pipe dream, honestly, is because a lot of the stuff that they announced and Microsoft has basically talked about, especially with the Bethesda stuff, if the games are already announced to be coming on a platform, then those games are still going to go to that platform.
Yes.
Look at Ghost Rider, look at Deathloop. All those games are still going over to PlayStation. Now, Ubisoft, all their games, most of them are already announced, and all of them are already, slated to go on platforms like PlayStation or like on Nintendo Switch and stuff. And if Xbox did do something like that, it will kind of be the same thing. Now we're talking about the biggest thing will be how those games could be in Game Pass, and that could be the turning point on how some people be like, well, shoot, why would I pay full price on PlayStation and I could just get them on Xbox? So I can see that definitely being the thing, but I also don't think Microsoft really wants to jump in and make another purchase that big, because yes, their cap is $9 billion, but they're definitely gonna have to spend 12 to 13 to make that purchase a reality, because they're going to have to overspend to basically make.
No, that 9 was the purchase price.
How much are they worth though?
$3.9 billion.
Oh, they're only worth
Ubisoft's market cap's only worth $3 billion.
3.9, almost $4 billion.
Low.
Yes, for $4 billion.
Okay, well, yeah, well, you right on the money then when you say $9 billion, because that makes it worth their while at that point.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, I just don't think Microsoft wants to pay more money into it until this first deal clears. Now, that doesn't say that they can't have something like this happen towards the end of their financial year when they start doing their predictions for 2021. I can see something like this happen, because they did say we're not done. At this point, I want to see exactly what they're going to do with the studios they have. They got 23 studios. If you chop those studios up, because a lot of them have more than one development house in them, Game Pass is going to be busy and full.
Yes.
It's going to be full for quite some time. So I'm looking forward to what they have now. If they want to surprise me and have more things and have other acquisitions and stuff, because they said they're not done, I'll be happy to see it. But at this moment, man, I can't get my hopes up on something like Ubisoft or even Capcom or Sega, because Sega, Atlas is one of my truly favorite development houses. I love games like Catherine. I never really got into the Persona franchise and stuff like that, but the Shin Megami Tensei's, I played that stuff a lot on Switch. That's a huge franchise that I'm a fan of.
Wait a second.
Yes, go ahead.
Why don't you you should boot up that Persona 5, King?
I have it.
I knew Luca was going to chime in on that.
I have Persona 5 Royale Edition too. I have everything.
Yeah, I think I definitely think that's worth a play. It's amazing.
Yeah, but it's also 150 to 200 and 300 hours.
Excuse me,
Ooh.
I beat it in 108 hours. Thank you very much.
That's 108 hours not on Destiny. 109 hours not on Destiny, but you're right though. But I think Sega would probably be the one that I'm more interested in, just because of Atlas. I think Atlas itself. You already proven that you pretty much own the West when it comes to like the Western RPG. Now the only thing you don't have is the Japanese RPG side of it. And if you get Sega, you pretty much are tying up pretty much everything when it comes to RPGs.
Well, Phantasy Star alone is worth it because that's doing very well in Japan. Yeah.
So I think that would be the one that I would be more interested in, because let's be for real, like Lucas said earlier, the whole situation going on with Ubisoft, and I don't think that would really deter Microsoft from making the purchase, because it would they would just be out with the trash at that point. They would just get rid of the people that they don't want there. The overhead will basically just get taken out and everything. So I think they will redo everything what's going on with the structure of Ubisoft. But I think they already have a lot of games like that. That open world field type game. That's what they're actually striving to do now inside of Game Pass with the games they have. I think the more RPGs they can get in there, specifically JRPG, then you're going to be talking about the people over in the southern sides of the country and over in the other side of the world that's going to be paying more attention to them, because that's why Japan and Asia are super into the Nintendo ecosystem because of games like Xenoblade. Yep. They like those type of games and stuff over there. That's why JRPGs are so prevalent over in Japan. That's why Europe is so deep into the PlayStation ecosystem. So if they can make a move for Sega, that would be the one that I think would really pay dividends for them going into the next generation. But I just want to take a wait and see approach, because I'm still kind of recovering from $7.5 billion being spent that I never thought I would ever see a company do to buy another company, especially to show that they are in gaming as much as they are. And I think that's all we wanted as Xbox gamers, just to know that Microsoft cared, and now we know it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, listen, folks, this has been a great show, and I'm going to say this: the final point on this conversation is look out for the last week of October that this big information is coming. Like I said, what I've been told, it is not a developer; it is a publisher that's going to be added, and it's going to be big. And based on what has also been told to me, it's going to be as big, potentially bigger than the ZeniMax Bethesda deal. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I have smaller connections. I don't have some of the bigger ones, but this one that I have talked to has been on the money and very, very trusted. And I know them personally. So we'll see. But remember, if it happens, you heard it on this day on this podcast, and who could forget that we had the lovely Luca on as a guest. And obviously, let's get to the outros there, darling. First of all, I have to applaud you for the change in direction of your channel, because I've been watching. Besides the Scumcast, you've been dropping some videos in there as well, making yourself a little bit more available to the community, putting your opinion out there. And I gotta say, man, that's great for your channel. It's great for us as fans. Do me a favor, darling, tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, potentially get backslapped by them. We're not talking about slow-mo backslap, and also about your outstanding and growing YouTube channel.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for having me on. I had a great time, and I love spending time with the boys. So thank you so much. It was really, really good for me. But yeah, man, I mean, I just, okay, we all know how the community is. I was just getting tired of the negativity, and I was like, instead of being destructive, how about I try to be creative and productive with everything
Yes.
I'm doing? And people have been loving everything I've been putting down, and
Yep.
I've been learning new things about video editing and Photoshop. Thanks to Slomo and Nautical for helping me out. So it's been a lot of fun, and I don't know, man. It's there's a lot of bad in the world, and I think people expend way too much energy being negative, and I'm not trying to do any of that stuff. I'm trying to be positive, and I just want to have fun with it and be happy. So, but yeah, thanks for you. Go ahead, bro.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for being here as always, and definitely, I definitely got to make my appearance on the Scumcast. Have not been on there in a while, so we're definitely gonna, we'll sit down and we'll try and figure out our schedules because loved your show and would love to be a part of that. And we'll definitely make that happen. Let's get Cybernox.
Wait, real quick, you guys can follow me at the Ash and Luca on Twitter and YouTube. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Yes,
sorry, bro. Go ahead.
The Ash and Luca definitely on Twitter, and be respectful because she will block you. But before she does, you'll get a piece of her mind, and you don't want that kind of lashing. So don't be an a-hole and come at Luca, because not only are you going to get it from her, you're probably going to get it from the rest of the community as well. And you do have a big backup. And definitely check out her channel. She's doing a lot of good and new things, and I gotta say, it is great stuff coming from her. And Cyber, before you jump back out there and you keep these streets safe from the likes of Two-Face and Bane, do me a favor, brother. Tell everyone about where they can check you out on social media, because you've been very active, but more importantly, your outstanding YouTube channel.
Oh, thanks, Boom. First and foremost, I want to say it was a pleasure, Luca. It was great meeting you. I follow you. I listen to you on Scumcast as well. Hopefully, I don't make your ears bleed, but you know what I mean. So next time I'll give you a warning.
Let me go refollow you because
it's all good.
No, Boo, I got you.
Cybernox, you guys already know the drill. Cybernox on Twitter, that's where I'm most active. YouTube, I gotta start putting out more content. I know, but it's always a pleasure being here Monday evenings here with my primetime gaming brothers, and can't wait for next Monday, and everyone have a great week.
Well, thank you for being here as always. Tempest Son, let's bring you back into the conversation. Now, obviously, you have been very busy in the MMO world, but every now and again, you sniper a few people and take out people that come across your path, but at the same time, offer your friendship after murdering them online. Do me a favor, brother. Tell everyone about where they can follow you on social media and potentially get shot in the face by you on PlayStation Network and, of course, Xbox Live.
You have way too much fun with that, man.
I really do. I love it.
No, I love it too. You can find me on Twitter at the Tempest Sun. Gamer tag is Tempest Sun. I got to get some gaming done. It was cool having Ash and Luca on and my panel of my boys. Always good to be with you guys. And I got gaming to do, so I'm going to get on out of here.
All right. Well, listen, dude, thank you so much for being here. And obviously, you being a part of the show is a big deal. You were here from the beginning, and to have you on each and every week is always an honor to work with you. So, Clowns, thank you so much for being here as always, Mr. Clowns. So, you have been doing some interesting things on Four Guys with Quarters. As a matter of fact, you've been rubbing elbows with several of the big time industry movers and shakers. Why don't you tell everyone about that and where they can follow you, potentially even mail you a calzone?
Nice. Thanks, Boom. Oh. Yeah. So lately, Four Guys with Quarters, we have been, introduced to several different celebrities. We just interviewed actress Siobhan Hewlett on Four Guys with Quarters. We interviewed video game and film composer Crispin Hands. This Wednesday, we're going to be interviewing Kelsey Abbott, who writes for Cartoon Network. And you may know some of her shows as like Uncle Grandpa, Amazing Adventures of, I think, Gumball. I probably said that wrong. But she's done a lot of other stuff as well. And then on Friday, we're going to be interviewing Tommy Tallarico. And next week, we're supposed to have more voice actresses as well on Four Guys with Quarters. But you can find me on all social media at Italian Clowns and Four Guys with Quarters. On our channel, we do about 4 shows a week now, unless we're doing interviews. So yeah, check us out. And thanks for having me here. And it was awesome to be on a podcast with Luca again. It's been a while, so this was really cool. And you know, everybody here is awesome. Glad Gaming Forte was able to get past those interviews, man.
Yes, definitely. Glad to have you here. Definitely glad to have you here, Clowns, and certainly appreciate the wisdom you bring to this show each and every week. The Mag, let's go to you next, brother. You got your voice back. You're not under the weather anymore. Hopefully, the whole household is back to full health, and you're back to gaming and, of course, podcasting. Because not only are you on Primetime Gaming each and every Monday, you have another little show that has exploded on the scene with someone known as the Terminator / Arnold in Noof Nukem and his show Tuesday evenings. Why don't you tell everyone about that? And more importantly, where could people reach out to you on social media?
Okay, well, yes, thank you tonight for a great show, great chat, great panel. And Luca, you're awesome as always. And it was actually an absolute pleasure to be on a show with you instead of just sitting here listening to you. So it was a wonderful. Oh, and by the way, chat, everybody, Boom wasn't kidding, okay? Luca added me on Twitter about 2 days ago. I've already been banned. So anyhow, moving on. Yes, you can find me right here every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on... No one's going to pick it up for me. Primetime Gaming.
Primetime Gaming. That's right.
We got a Primetime Gaming every Tuesday night. Tuesday night, we have Gaming After Dark with Noof Nukem and Titan Drago. That is 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is for adults only. Now, you can also find me on Twitter at The Middle Age Game Guy. That's with a GY at the end. On the Xbox side of things, you can follow me at Dead Meat 1, that is DEDMEAT1, all capitals. On the PlayStation, you can find me all capitals, one word, because I don't know how to be quiet. I am the Mag. So you can find me in all those places. So anyways, guys, again, it was an absolute pleasure to be here. Everybody have a great week. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, brother. And last and no way least, Gaming Forte, you have been really, churning out not just content for the sake of content, but you're putting out thought-provoking, awesome content. Your channel has exploded. You're going to hit 3,000 subs before you know it. Also, in tow, of course, we have to have him back on the show. Hopefully, we can get him on maybe this upcoming Friday morning. And of course, you've teamed up with Slow-Mo Backslap, one of my favorite content creators, because of his honesty and the fact that he makes content like you that is thought-provoking. Tell everyone about about not only your YouTube channel, the show that you do with Slow-Mo on a weekly basis, where they can find you on social media, and more importantly, one of the 17,000 shows that you're on weekly.
Look, man, first of all,
drag him. I'm sorry.
First of all, it's hard to follow up Matt because he's always yelling. So got to turn my preamps on my mixer up to make sure I'm able to concentrate. But no, it's always a great time being here with you guys, man. You guys are the beginning of the week for me. It wakes me up. It energizes me for the rest of the week. So I'm super happy to be here with you and all the success you're having on your channel, man. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. But outside of that, it is Gaming Forte everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Xbox Live. PlayStation is still Nautica, so shout out to the Fallen. But man, look, DPS podcast every Thursday now at 9 p.m. We moved it from Tuesday. We're on Thursdays. That's going to be the new home of me and Slow-Mo Backslap, literally arguing about something that probably makes no sense, but you're still going to enjoy it. You can check us out also on the Brat podcast every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. With E-Money, Eric Jackson, Enrique, and Slow-Mo Backslap, like I said earlier. And last but not least, Primetime Gaming right here every week. Monday, sometimes it's 8 o'clock, right? Because I'm getting my time.
Yes.
Are we going to change when daylight savings times happens? Are we going to stay at 8 o'clock?
No, we're probably going to drop it back. We may go back.
I got to prepare myself for that. But but no, outside of that, man, it's been incredible, man. I love being here with you guys. Just keep doing the good work that you guys are doing. And when we got to get you guys on all these different shows, I got to put out some invites to you guys to be on DPS and all these other places.
Absolutely. And then we'll definitely answer the call for sure. But listen, folks, this has been an amazing show. We had over 650 people here to listen to, two massive topics. We actually got the what we've been playing into the conversation, which is pretty awesome. And of course, obviously a big shout out to the chat. And more importantly, obviously the chat, you guys and gals keep this rolling. If we didn't have you in the audience, we wouldn't have an audience. So I want to thank you for not only being here, but keeping it very civil. And of course, keeping it civil, who walks silently and carries a very big stick, is of course one of the massive, ultra incredibly important parts of the show, and that's Lethal Papa. This gentleman over here not only does this particular podcast, he does all of my shows. His moderation skills are legendary, and obviously he's trusted. And
Papa bro be killing it, man. He be
Yeah.
killing those trolls.
Papa,
yes,
since we're not on Tuesday nights no more, interfering with your duties on RDX, you got to come through and run sheriff in my chat on Thursdays.
that is the sheriff indeed. And you know something, folks? Listen, he has my full support. So if you get banned, if you get timed out, if you get completely wiped across the floor, don't come to me later on saying, why did I get banned with a DM? He has my full authority. He has the full authority to, if you are being a troll, if you're being an a-hole, if you're causing trouble, you're gone. This is a kind of community that I grew with friendships and love and caring and togetherness. And if you can't be a part of it, well, then you're going to find yourself banned, and that's going to be tough titty. So don't do that. Come here, hang out, enjoy yourself, have fun, and just enjoy yourself. And before we get out of here, CKO Yumi drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, the email makes sense if Xbox owns Ubisoft and Sega. Wow. Well, yes, I say buy them all. That's what I say. But you know what? I am not writing the checks. Anyway, listen, folks, I want to say a big thank you for being here. And I want to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully, one day it will be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me when I was a kid. It made me a better New York City police officer. But more importantly, it made me a better human being. And he used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care. Enjoy gaming on whatever console you like playing on. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.
Bye.